That's coming. Wait.
Hi, everyone. Yes, this is Norman Kochnick. It may be hard to recognise. We're not the Bobsey twins. Sid and I are not twins. We're wearing both pink tops, but we're not the Bobsey twins. How are you, Siddharth? How are you, Siddharth? Vishwanathan?
Great, Norman. Absolutely fine. I just wish that this pink, we could have worn it for either Jane McGrath Day or some other day in Sydney, and we were at the CG together.
Yes, well, that will happen one day. Don't worry. I almost can't recognise myself. Yeah, everyone, this is Norman Kochnick. He's not his younger brother who's turned up today. I have had a shave. I haven't quite got it right, but I'm getting there. So, what a difference! I look like an old man now. I don't look like it.
Just like England. England at Lords, England at Leeds.
Well, can you believe that a team could be all out for 120 last game and now start the match none for 120? It's totally illogical. It's almost hard to comprehend that the team could go from, all out for 120 to be none against virtually the same bowling attack. It's quite incredible. And even though the wicket certainly was, a lot drier, a lot more sun-baked in the latter part of the day, it's still incredible from the morning to the evening how much the actual match changed. How India capitulated to be all out for 78. Yeah. Now, I mean, there were some shots that were perhaps more, how can I describe it? Some shots were certainly good deliveries, but some were awful. Like Rishabh Pant's dismissal was terrible. Also, the dismissal of course, Rohit Sharma wasn't great either. But then Rohit Sharma, I have to pat him on the back. He did a fantastic job. He got that 19 runs, admittedly weren't many, but the way he batted was incredible. The way he could bat for that long under such trying, he's got to be commended for that. I think if anyone knocks his dismissal, they're crazy because he was there for so long.
Indeed. And if you have to look at it, 46 balls of pure class, pure discipline, not banana swing, not bounce. I mean, I heard on air that day, England were not trying to hurt the Indian batsmen. That's the mistake that they did in Lords. They just wanted to get them out. And who better than Jimmy? Oh, Jimmy. What a player. I mean, I was blown away by Jimmy yesterday. I can wax lyrical about him. I can keep on saying like how brilliant he is. Sure, everybody will say he was Clouderson. He can't do it outside England.
Yeah, I like that. I like that term, Clouderson. I think that's amusing.
No, but you get to perform in the conditions that you do well in.
Yeah,
it needs skill even for that. And Jimmy, yet again, he didn't swing the ball much at all. If you have to look at it, just enough to trouble them. And nowadays, India don't get troubled by excess bounce or excess swing. It's that just enough movement that troubles them, just enough. Which is why they have conquered Australia, but it'll be difficult for them to conquer England to a certain extent because you have Broad, you have Anderson who can just about swing the ball in or out.
But it's very interesting because they talked about Anderson's delivery, like the position of his fingers. They're close together when it's natural swing, and they're wider with a wobbly seam when the ball could do anything. And that's the trick ball. When he's holding the seam wider and there's a wobble, no one has a clue, nor does Anderson know which way it's going to go. And that's the trick. Yeah. He can, with the wobble ball, it could hit seam going one way or the other, and that's even more deceptive. And it seems like the bowlers believe the position of his hand dictates which way it swings, but actually it's happening the opposite. The ball, which is meant to be cocked in that way, which is going away from the batter, is actually coming in. And so he's positioning. If Michael Atherton said, and he would argue as an expert at that, said, when I judge his position of his hand and his wrist and his fingers, I pick it the wrong way each time. So he said, heaven help them when they were out there batting. So that's what's happened.
Genius.
He is a genius. He is. He has to be. He's
I have gone one step ahead and told people, if it's in tests, Jimmy is the greatest. Period. You can't, for just one aspect, Norman, just this one aspect, Jimmy is the greatest in tests. You define a great bowler by getting the best batsman out in the team, giving them that psychological dent. He's dismissed Kohli 7 times. He's dismissed Sachin Tendulkar 9 times. He's had success against Ganguly, Dravid, Lakshman, Sehwag, Gambhir. That was your best Indian batting that you could ever have in that era. You've had success even against the Fab Three. If you take out Joe Root, I would show he would have gotten Root out plenty of times in county cricket. But he's dismissed Williamson 7 times, Steve Smith 6 times, Warner 9 times.
And at Adelaide Oval, he bowled one performance that was amazing. The amount of movement that was there was phenomenal.
Yep.
And David Graveney has joined us. Of course, he is the man who gave him his first Test cap, of course.
Of course.
How are you, David?
I'm fine, thanks, Norman. It's a very unusual look without a hat on. What's going on?
And I haven't got a beard either. Well, not much.
No. You've had a proper. Are you deranged as a result of England's performance, or you?
Norman, it takes a great selector to notice I don't have a cap. He used to hand out so many caps.
I can quickly put it on.
I'm good, David. Still blown away by Jimmy. Still blown away by Jimmy.
Just one bad day at the office, all right? So that's. I was saying to Norman yesterday that the emphasis changes and can change in a couple of hours. So in India have to make sure that they don't lie down. Basically, they've got to make the Test match go as long as they can, and some of them hopefully spend some time at the wicket and get their form back. And then 2 hours into the next Test match, it'll all be forgotten, as Lord's was. The headlines in the UK have gone from rubbish England to fantastic England in one day. So I don't know what they're up to.
Oh, it's the normal trend of British press to just do a complete 180 degrees, even if it is just 9 days ago. I mean, the Euro coverage, I mean, they were so passionate about it, but then when they lost the final, my goodness, it was hard to read.
It's been a strange summer in I think really dictated, Sid, by people's desire just to go and watch live sport, whatever it is, whatever the result. So, yeah, it's
but it's bought out.
One
David,
thing you can say is that actually, assuming that's making a big assumption, because I asked Norman if Sunil Gavaskar was going to appear on the program, having made a prediction that it was going to end up 4-0.
Well, that's right. He did make a prediction that would be at 4-0. I'm afraid he's very, very wrong now.
That's Glenn McGrath's prediction in 2005. We'll win 5-0. So he was wrong there.
No, but again, if I have to extend David's point, if India supposing they lose the Leeds Test, big possibility, but 2 epic sledges which went wrong. Not in my backyard, son. This is not your backyard. That one by Kohli at Lords. I think that has fired up Jimmy tremendously.
Yeah.
And I think they've again made that mistake of 2014. Jadeja had this quote-unquote false claim against Anderson and Trent Bridge. What happened after that? Jimmy was fired up 3-1. It changed the whole complexion of the game. Maybe we are seeing it yet again.
I said yesterday, Sid, you weren't on it, but the difference in terms of the control that England showed with the ball, they know how to bowl on the wicket and invite the drive. And then I look at, I know it's only one ball, Sharma's second ball to Hamid, very nearly didn't land on the wicket, short, wide. And it's not easy defending 75. But I watched a T20 game, which actually, this is Hampshire's game yesterday, Norman, which James Vince is the captain.
Yes.
Right.
A lot of younger players who I have worked with or been involved with. In fact, the top scorer in the game, this is with Hales, Duckett, Joe Clark, lots of guys who are knocking on the door. The top scorer in the match was an 18-year-old called Tom Prest, playing for Hampshire, who's just done his A-levels, had COVID, been in isolation, everything's happened to him. And he scored 44 in the game, was the top scorer. And they posted 125 because they played on a used wicket where they had Samit Patel, and it wasn't. Low scoring games can be quite interesting. And they were 66 for 1, Sid, and lost the game by 2 runs.
Wow!
They got 66. They got 55 in the power play, so they're 55 for no wicket after 10, and still lost. So.
But David, I mean, we have seen this trend. I mean, it's been happening for 6, 7 tests now. Maybe it might end after Leeds. But then the batting, is this the weakest England batting lineup that you have encountered in your entire tenure, or there were worse?
No, I think that I sense talking. This is in county cricket, Sid. There's a real wish for people to bat 4 and below, and try and avoid the new ball or the Duke ball in English conditions. And England have had so much rain, so you wouldn't believe how green our place is. So even the wicket may look dry on the top, it'll have moisture in it. And even when it's sunny, the moisture comes through. So the bottom line is the combination of the ball and the wicket, opening the batting is really hard work. So people are trying to recruit overseas players who bat a bit like Pujara. In other words, and Raul just use up the ball. And actually, I would have to say, and I have mentioned it, I'm not trying to be wise after the event, that some of those, and particularly Kohli, he's going so hard at the ball that actually, if the ball does anything, he's likely to nick it. Whereas in Pujara's defence, the best ball of the day was bowled to him, because he actually did try and play it late, but it actually seamed in and then swung away. So he swung away, yeah. And
but you have to argue that batsmen that get nicks are in reasonably good form because they're able to still get a nick on the ball that's moving. That's an achievement in itself.
But if you go at the ball as hard as Kohli's doing, then the end product is going to be, you're going to be struggling. So, but it can turn around in a day. I think it's been a really odd summer for sport. We've had the Olympic Games, 2 test matches. India could have been 2-0 up, and then a bit of a break. And I'm not sure, Sid, what the players did in that break. Did they just sort of go sightseeing, or
they just went sightseeing? And I think
there's nothing wrong with
12 days before the first test, they had a practice match, intra-squad practice game
against the English counties.
Durham. They also had one against Durham.
Yeah.
I'm just going to ask
at Durham. So,
yep.
So I'm just going to ask a Baram's question. Baram's asking, "Where is Norman?" Said, "Are you hosting?"
Recognize you. That's why Baron can't recognise you, Norman. He thinks the picture is an imposter.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it took. I'll just go quickly through what happened to me. I mean, I'm still in lockdown, so effectively, there's no barbers. I'm waiting. I bought a shaver which broke down. I'm using an old rickety shaver and a pair of scissors. I spent half the morning trying to. I got annoyed and everything. I've missed lots of spots below it. The hair on my ears. I did my best.
For 1.5 months, when I couldn't get a shave or a haircut done, it's a disaster. It's a total disaster.
Well, I don't.
It took me 4 hours to get this done.
Sid, I don't have the problem about the hair. I could have a haircut once every 6 months.
But you grow a pretty decent moustache, David. I've seen your moustaches; they're pretty decent.
No. Yeah, I'm top 10. I was in the top 10.
All right, now look. Let's dissect this game a little bit. We've talked about it already at some length. All out for 78. Not forgetting that India all out for 36 back at Adelaide.
Yeah.
Almost similar situation in a way. Burns came out, scored a 50 not out and won the game. And then 2 games later, Joe Burns was never to be seen again. Is this going to mean that Rory Burns, similar name to Joe Burns, will bat well this innings and then never be seen again?
Well,
is there irony going on here? Is there some?
Yeah. Forget all the drama before he actually receives the ball, Norman, of waving around like a tree in the wind and then waving his bat around his head. Actually, he did hit one shot through the covers, was absolutely the way to play, because he hit it underneath his nose virtually. So his hitting area was right below him, and he just timed it through the covers.
I think Rory Burns' capability to hang around and play some good strokes is, I think, far better than Joe Burns, Norman. I mean, I'm sorry.
I think so.
Yeah, Rory can bat. It's just, it just looks a bit odd on the eye. But in terms of concentration, because that's what you need.
Yep.
on wickets in England, you need real high levels of concentration. So, and I think the interesting point was that some of Kohli's remarks were slightly strange about what he was going to do on the wicket. Headingley doesn't have that much grass on it. And if you look at the number of people who have got runs in the fourth innings to win games, Butcher was one, Stokes is another, that actually the wicket just goes flat.
Yep.
And doesn't break up. So that's why the spin isn't involved. So if it was going to do anything, it was going to do it to start with. And that might have been, that was actually a little bit like sort of a Ricky Ponting, his philosophy at Edgbaston in 2005. Having crushed England, we'll put them in again because their confidence would be really low. And that actually should have been one of the options for the Indians, saying that, you know, England were really criticised, really struggled. Let's see what they're made of now.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's.
I know that might seem to be really defensive, and I'm sure they might have thought about it, but predicting what wickets do in England is like.
Look, David, in everybody's defense, even if you have to predict the weather in England, even the BBC gets it wrong.
Yeah.
Every second weather update is wrong. So getting the wickets in England and the conditions right is like a very, very difficult task. It then depends upon your skill. I mean, in 2002, if I have to look at it, overcast skies, greenish wicket, common sense and the Indian psyche at that time would have said, oh, we have to bowl second. But no, Ganguly defied the logic and then he said, I trust you, I trust our batsmen. Yeah. Let's just bat. And look what happened.
Yeah.
In England, trusting your skills and instinct is 80% of the work. The pitch will do tricks every single day.
Yeah.
Every single session.
But it requires, if you look at the England lineup, you know you're going to have the most serious examination from Jimmy Anderson for 6 overs that you'll ever experience. So, even if you bowl 6 overs, 6 maidens, 0 for 0, you've actually done your job as opening batsman. Because you need to get to the next tier down and not be 2 for 1 or 1 for 2 or whatever they were, 2 for 2. Because that means the rest of the other bowlers will think, actually, yeah, the pressure is removed from me straight away. I can just come on and bowl. So,
well, when you set up Rohit Sharma's batting performance, he batted for virtually 3 hours, didn't he?
No, he did really well. I must admit, he's showing a side to him that probably didn't exist, and he's now made himself into he'd been a bit disappointed the way he got out, but that's probably because it was a newer bowler. You know, actually, he realised now that Overton Craig is a big unit, full stop, and he can actually bowl it a bit quicker than you think he's going to bowl it. So, yeah. And he has been in really fine form for Somerset. He's bowled a lot. He's got good rhythm. He is a product of actually bowling red ball cricket quite a lot. So he's in a good position. But sorry, Nolan.
I was just going to quickly say, Anderson was backed up beautifully by Sam Curran, Robinson, and Overton. They all did a great job, didn't they?
England's bowling has been no problem, Norman. If you have to look at the entire sequence of the series that happened in 2021, England's bowling is no problem. It's the batting. It's just the batting that has led the bowlers.
That's a worldwide issue. You know, you just have to look at the scores coming out of the West Indies between Pakistan and West Indies. Yeah. Nobody is getting a run unless you go right down the bottom of the order or in the middle order or something. But they're quite low-scoring games. So this is the greatest advert for 4-day test match you've ever seen.
I mean, if you have to look at the English summer, I mean, there's been no... if you look at the England series, you look at the World Test Championship, no team scored over 350, 400. No one.
Well, that's... And again, not being wise after Gloucestershire had an old players' day, and Zahir Abbas, who was a former colleague of mine, I sat next to him at lunchtime, and he just said, you know, the quality of batting worldwide has and he says that's entirely down to white ball cricket, because people can't change from one mode of I've got to hit every ball to a mode actually it's the other way around. I've actually got to leave the ball if it's doing anything to wear the bowlers down. So it's but his overall judgment, and he obviously was a world-class player and probably played on wickets that were a bit more batting friendly. But I think I've heard that observation before, so we will see what happens. But I the result is probably foregone, assuming there's no weather intervention. But India actually have a lot to play for in terms of being able to show their character in a slightly different way. That actually they keep their discipline, they bowl in the right sort of areas, and put England under as much pressure as they can. For England's side, this is a great opportunity for their batsmen. Everybody's under pressure, whatever happens, but this is about as pressure-free as you could possibly get it. They wake up this morning and they're 50 in the lead and they've got 10 wickets left, and there's 4 days left. So, but the Indians if they collapse and it gets ill-disciplined, then that could. There's not to be gained if you bowl properly and share the burden around. And I know Sharma's record is not Rohit Sharma, Ishant Sharma is fantastic, but I'm never quite convinced about him in terms of his accuracy. Sometimes he bowls really bad spells and then comes back and then takes 3 or 4 wickets or whatever. So I've never thought he's ever been on the money from ball one. So I think this would be an opportunity for him to do that. So, but they'll have to. The Indians will need some earplugs when they're in the field, because the Western Terrace at Headingley, when England are winning, is not the place to be standing in front of. Fortunately, the Yorkshire dialect will be such that they probably won't understand what they're talking about. We shall see.
Do you think, and I don't really want to say it because I know this is changing so quickly from no change to change, but it's very early in the match. We'll see how they go in the second innings. But the Pujaras and the Rahanes got out to good deliveries, you would argue, or at least Pujara certainly did. Are we talking change again? Is that not a topic to be brought up? I don't think we should, because 78's an aberration, like it was in Adelaide. So I think we'd best give them a second innings to see how they go.
But India, I think it's looking people in the colour of looking them in the eye, Norman. You can tell a lot from how their mental state is and how their body language is in terms of sitting in the dressing room, how they approach the second innings. That'll be probably quite high on the list, Ravi's list and Cody's list and even himself. And Ravi's got to really get inside Cody's head and say, just relax, just go and play, because I think he's betwixt and between trying to be defensive and trying to play his natural game. So he needs to. He probably has got it on his computer and everything like that. When I visited Zahir Abbas in Lahore, one thing that happened when I went up to, he had some people visiting. There had people on his lawn he'd never known before coming to pay homage to him, which I'm sure happens to the Indian players as well. So he said, go upstairs, there's some cassettes, shows how long ago it was, of cricket. He didn't say what it was. And they were all cassettes of him scoring runs. And the moment he got out, that was the end of the coverage of the match. It was just him. So I think Virat needs to, and everybody needs a boost of confidence. He needs to watch a bit of him self-batting and scoring runs. And I remember a word that Graham Gooch used, which was around rhythm to your batting, in terms of rhythm of movement. And, I think that's probably what he needs to. Everybody needs a break. If he got to 40 or 50, everybody would feel fine about it. So there's still, I know it looks a hopeless position, but there's still a lot for them to gain from showing character, taking it into the next game.
And let's not forget, they're not behind. They're actually 1-0 up in the series. Yeah, no. They're not down. I mean, there's not a need to panic. They don't need to change the side. They need to have a bit of sensibility about what they do to calm down. Everything's gone wrong in this innings. Yes, they're behind the 8 ball so far, but it doesn't mean they're going to not save face and play reasonably for the rest of the match. and go on to still win the series comfortably. It doesn't mean that. They need to arrest that by, as you said, the attitude in the dressing room. Coley looks decidedly uncomfortable, to be honest. The rest seem quite okay. And I made a point of this yesterday about the reality is that they've gone through an incredible high at Lords of winning. The euphoria of winning, it was like winning a Gabba almost. Naturally, the next game is a difficult one to get back up on, no matter when it's played. Can you imagine India playing a game after the Gabba, straight after the Gabba? They would have been down as well. After such a huge high,
they lost in Chennai. They lost in Chennai.
Exactly.
Well, this is one of England's, I think, in recent years, favourite grounds to play on. And actually, ironically, Lords is one of the worst grounds for the player.
Yes,
the point I was making before, it acts as a massive inspiration to the opposition who have never played at Lords, and they'll have a lot of their own supporters, as the Oval will be the same when it becomes the last day. But Leeds is actually quite. I think the bowlers know where to bowl, and the batsmen now realise what is going to be the danger ball, which is actually the drive ball. You just have to defend it, leave it, but just the alarm bells should go on, because that's what Jimmy did, and he only bowled 6 overs. So all he did was pitch it up. So.
But he is a master. There's no doubt about it. I mean, and we come up with this term. I love it. Cloudison. I like that. Have you heard that term before, David?
No. What's
Cloudison.
There were a lot of critics. There were a lot of critics of Anderson when they had to compare who's the best test bowler. McGrath, Steyn, Anderson. They say that if there is no cloud cover and if the pitch isn't green, then James Anderson's not effective. So in England, he's effective because of the cloud cover. So they called him James Clouderson.
Right.
I really don't agree to that.
I don't agree to that. They need to somehow get the word Duke in that as well, which is the make of the ball. So.
No, but I think Jimmy has mastered all the balls. I mean, SG, Kookaburra, Duke. He has done it.
But he is deadly with the Dukes.
Yeah. But indeed,
certainly in Australia with the Kookaburra, he's done well.
And he handpicks them as well. So, because I think that's still allowed to happen, is that the umpires have the balls, or the match referee boxer balls, and I think the bowling side is allowed to go and pick the ball that they want to use. So there's been some pretty dodgy stories about sort of planting balls in the box. This is more at county level, not at international level.
Wow. So
that'll be fun.
I mean,
that'll be real.
I think the situation is different if you have to look at what happened in Australia, what's happening now in England. I mean, if I have to look at what's happening in England, 2014 would be much more appropriate if you have to look at it. In Australia, the conditions were not. Australia had a very bad batting lineup, if I have to look at it. The one match that they did well in Sydney, that was where they managed, the bowling didn't work at that time.
Yeah.
In Brisbane, they
trying to get possibly both parts right. Actually, I need to ask Norman a question. This is this guy Harris, who was given a chance to play in the Test team.
Marcus Harris?
Yeah.
Marcus or Ryan?
Sorry?
Marcus Harris?
Yeah.
Or Ryan?
Harris. Is he likely to be picked again? Because he's done really well in England.
Hang on, we're talking about Marcus Harris.
Yeah.
Marcus Harris. Well, he's still he's still in the squad. He's still in the squad for the Test lineup. He is still in the squad. He and Pekowski are the opening choices. Marcus Harris was in the previous years. He was in contention. He actually batted in place of Pekowski for one match. So yes, Marcus Harris is certainly in contention still. Yes,
because he's batted down. Well, probably 3 or 4. I'm not sure which way it is, but certainly he's tried to avoid the opening bowlers for a while. But he's got some big hundreds now. He's got 150s, 160s.
Well, that's good form. He hasn't been talked about surprisingly too much, but he's still in the mix. The Australian side, I mean, look, my God, let me just digress for a minute. The media, again, there's another article today from Malcolm Allen, who was previously from The Age, is now with the Sydney Morning Herald, and Daniel Brechik, who's now with The Age. They combined to write yet another scathing article about both Cricket Australia and Justin Langer, to the extent that he has gone up another gear with the discontent. There are players left, right, and centre that are leaking stories. Usman Khawaja's even talked about something about being stabbed in the back.
Yeah, Australian players are stabbing Langdon in the back. Yep.
I'm pretty sure, and I hate to be strong with names, but Steve Smith and I think Dave Warner have some problems with Langer. Big problems. Especially when it comes to a situation where Steve Smith comes out and pledges captaincy out in the papers, and then the next couple of days, Langer says, "Who? What? He's not the captain. Tim Payne is," and that's quite antagonistic in both ways.
You've mentioned it before. My dealings, and they're only limited with Justin Langer. He's always been very polite to me, where there's no need to be. But I've always thought he was a very intense guy that actually, didn't have a release button, so to speak. Whereas somebody like Darren Lehman did. That's why he was popular, because he was not only an outstanding player, but he good coach, tactically very good. But he also could introduce some lighter moments for the players. They've got to enjoy what they're doing. They don't have to be frightened of what's going to happen. So, if Warner and Smith fall out with a coach, then England will be rubbing their hands basically.
Oh, gotcha. It's by no means a foregone conclusion Australia are going to win that series by any means. If England get their act together, which they seem to be slightly now doing with their batting, and form a partnership, I'm excited to see what David Milan has to offer now. He's got a massive chance to do well. And obviously,
Norman, is the series happening? Is the series going to happen with the COVID surge?
Oh, you're right. You're right, Sid. Some of the players are really, particularly players with young families, are really thinking twice about the impact of being in the bubble and what that means for you as an individual, your family, particularly those who are not necessarily playing every game. I've spent some time with James. He plays for Gloucestershire, and he was carried around by England forever and a day, and eventually played against New Zealand, and it didn't really work out for him. And mentally, that did a massive lot of damage to him. He's only just coming back in the frame. Mentally, for him, to get some enjoyment about playing cricket, because the abuse that he took on social media was off the scale, basically. Yeah. So, but that's the world we live in. So there has been quite, and I know paper quotes are not to be guaranteed on, but I can understand some of them are, particularly people who've had children just born in the last 3 or 4 months and not their first child. This is more number 2, number 3. Thinking about sort of in terms of the harmony of my family and helping my wife, can I afford to be away for 4 months? Now I know that used to happen in days gone by.
That's a fair point. So now you have to sit. So that's the thing you have to go.
But I think and again, I'm not trying to be wise after the end. Once the IPL started, it moved the goalposts in lots and lots of areas in terms of talking about professional sportsmen whose careers don't last forever, and this is their opportunity to look after their family for the rest of their lives. You shouldn't decry them that opportunity. So it'll be interesting.
I mean, I once interviewed Josh Butler when he was in Delhi. I had interviewed him. He said one should not have that arrogance to play in all 3 formats. We have a short shelf life.
But if you bat 2 wickets, Sid, that's a full-on commitment. That is
full-on commitment. But he's not playing the IPL this time because he's expecting the birth of a second child. He's not playing the IPL.
No, but where that goes after that, depending on, and hopefully, touching everything that's wood, including my head, that all goes very smoothly. But it's hard. I can remember sort of what my wife had to put up with, just me playing county cricket and not being around.
You've been chairman of selections too, David.
Was born in a complicated birth, and the day after the birth, I went off and played cricket for Gloucester for the next 10 days. And my mother-in-law and sadly had passed away at that stage, so It was just really hard. But that's the world we used to live in, which was the wrong world. The world we live in now is a much more fairer and balanced. And if a player turns around, he shouldn't be victimized if he turns around and say, actually, my family is more important. People keep saying it until somebody actually puts into action what they're going to do.
I think, David, is it fair to say that all this changed when Marcus Trescothick was diagnosed with that?
Yeah,
I think the understanding
I was
changed.
centrally involved in that, and
yeah,
Duncan and I went to see him before he came to the last tour. This was 2006-07 tour.
Yeah,
and our team by then was smashed a bit. Simon Jones couldn't bowl. Ashley Giles was struggling with his knee. Michael Vaughan was struggling with his knee. So it was a little bit sort of all in disarray. But it's just very hard, I think. The board have tried to do the right thing and allow them to take their families. But again, that's not a perfect solution, because there's a lot of time when you're playing cricket, So I think they'll all be there, Sid. But I think people have to be conscious. There'll be a lot of in-depth discussions, and the amount of cricket that they can play, not that they have to play. So one of the best decisions that England ever made, and I'm sure it didn't go right down well with the three individuals: Broad and Anderson not playing white ball cricket, and also Joe Root not playing T20 cricket. They couldn't play T20 cricket, but to just give him a break.
Yep.
So he went off and played red ball cricket for Yorkshire. Wasn't that successful, but he got into a situation where he had a bit of rhythm to his batting, and that's been proven in the way that he's played when he came into the series.
Indeed.
But it is complicated, and there's no right solution. So it'll be interesting to see. And I think that there's so many things happening in the summer. The question of actually watching live sport has not muddied the waters. We see people are so desperate to go and watch it, whatever the sport is. I think once the Ashes are there, sort of in isolation, where we get back into, what will happen in the normal world. So let's hope it is. So
we're getting a weather forecast of low clouds.
Sorry,
we're getting a weather forecast of. Well, clear, but no rain, but low clouds.
India have a chance.
They're gonna hope like hell they have.
Well, if it starts doing a lot, Norman, this could be a very quick test match.
Indeed.
So we'll see.
Even though
Norman, send me the link for tonight, and I'll be there. Thursdays is a granddaughter day for me. So
that's nice.
I've got a little girl waiting.
David. Appreciate you coming
to entertain. Well, entertain is wrong. Sid, good to see you again, Norman.
Good to see you too, David.
Thanks, David.
Can I say, Norman, it must have been a very painful thing for you to carve your way through that lot.
It was.
I would have to say, that you're looking very youthful as a result.
Thank you.
I'll see you later.
Thank you.
Bye, David. Bye.
All right, thanks for staying a bit longer. That's pretty. I do look younger. I'm quite shocked.
Yep.
I mean, it just shows. I mean, but it's the drama of being that old looking. Everything's going to look younger.
Yep.
But I still haven't. I've been able to get the stuff underneath my neck on. I've just found out that one of the girls on my show, one of the girls may have COVID. She's just texted me. Said, there's drama. Sydney's gone through the roof. We've gone over 1,000 cases a day, which for Sydney's huge.
It's huge.
But
New Zealand, 63 cases. That's it.
Like ginormous. That's ginormous.
The last nation has fallen finally, and thanks to Sydney.
It's not good. Not good at all. In fact, I'm going to struggle to get to the World Cup now. I think that I might struggle to get a visa. That's my problem. Australia. It's not so much the visa to Dubai. That's the problem. It's Australia letting me go out of the country, which is a problem.
Yep.
They're really tough at the moment. It's become ridiculous.
Yep.
But we've got so many people being tested. It's a good thing. So, all right, Siddharth, what do you think is going to happen today before you leave?
See, England have got the best conditions. Day 2 and 3 traditionally is the best conditions for batting in Leeds. If they cannot utilize, I think you have to get a lead of over 300 to just bat India out of the contest. 300 to 350 with just 1.5 sessions or 2 days to go. Just 2 days to go. Put them in. The test match is yours. If they don't capitalize on this today, that's it. You have no chance in hell of coming back in the series. Day 2, day 3, crucial days for England's batting. Get it into the groove. Plan ahead for Oval and Manchester. But it begins on day 2. If they don't get that lead, that's it. Just a lead of over 150 or 200, you've gotten India back into the game, because India will not want to make that same mistake that they did in the first innings. They'll bat much more with much more discipline.
Yeah, and things won't go all England's way, I don't think, in the second innings. Everything went their way yet again. I mean, it was just like clockwork what actually did happen. But Sam Curran, Overton, and Robinson all bowled extremely well. There was no letting up.
Yep. That's the best part about it.
But
so they didn't
David didn't let me talk about the Australian situation, but I'll tell you what, there is a war going on in the newspapers. I'm going to do a newspaper video very soon, because Malcolm Conn and Daniel Brett actually launched into an attack.
Daniel Brett is with the Age. I thought he was with Cricinfo.
No, he's gone to the Age now. He's taken on the chief. He's just gone the chief cricket writer for the Age. He, which was actually the job that I believe Malcolm Conn used to have many moons ago. Then Malcolm went off to spend time with Cricket Australia for 3 years in Cricket New South Wales. Wow. And then he's now returned to be a journalist. And in that period that he worked for Cricket Australia, I don't think he had a happy time, because he's absolutely going for it now. Absolutely going for it in his articles, which tells me he's got no intentions of going back and working there, because he wouldn't be going. He wouldn't be going on the way he is.
Yes. He's burned the bridges, I think.
Oh, he's absolutely laying into a few people at the moment. Oh my God! And there's a guy.
The off-field situation does not bode well for Australia, either for the World T20 or for the Ashes. Doesn't.
I mean, I feel Nick Hockley, I've got a lot of time for. I think there's still people in the organisation that are lingering from before. I'm not going to mention them. There's a couple of people still in the highest levels, not Nick Hockley, that are there still. I've got to get rid of them, I think, in my honest opinion, if that's what's really the deep-rooted problems. Anyone that's involved with what's been going on in the past needs to be looked at very seriously. Nick Hockley's not. He's the future by 100 miles.
Indeed.
All right, Sid, thank you for joining me. We're both
anytime,
pink.
Anytime, so yes.
I'll see
future. Instead of this backdrop, what we have, future, maybe 2023 or 2024 or even earlier, Jane McGrady, Ashes.
Well, we're wearing the same clothing for sure. You'll be all decked out.
Yep.
All right, Sid. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Mohammed. Thank you so much. Take care.
Ciao.
Bye.
So yes, guys, I do look a bit younger, don't I? I'm almost shocking myself here with my hair. My hair is normally like this, so you just don't see my hair because I normally wear a hat. And just had a nice old freshening up. I've got a bit of beard to disappear. I'll get rid of the whole thing probably in the next few days. It was like battling through a forest trying to get rid of what I've got. I tell you, it was awful. Anyway, so I see a lot of questions coming up regarding we're being too hard on Pujara, Kohli and Rahane. Well, I'm not trying to be hard. I predicted they should be in the side for the rest of the series. I'm going to discount those 78 runs. I'm going to look at the second innings and see how they go there and judge how India's playing. To me, Rohit Sharma and Rahul are fantastic. Rohit Sharma yet again faced some 3 hours worth of bowling and batted, I thought, very, very well. If Rohit Sharma had been with Rahul and Rahul hadn't gotten out, they may not have lost a wicket yesterday morning, and they may be done for 120 like England are. So yeah, I wouldn't be that heavy on them. I think Pujara did double ton. Okay, if you think he's going to double, okay. With 28 runs to the bank, not even God can say okay, that's true. Perhaps it's true. Can India damage control today? Well, they will be managed, or they will be a fair bit of damage control. But I think it's going to be, if England, I mean, look, Milan's got a perfect situation to be blooded back into the side. The wicket falls early or relatively early. He's in a position where he can take charge. Hamid, although he was scratchy, scored 60. Not bad. Burns played well. Root may fall this time. He's been batting well all the way along. The reality is that England need to get a big score on the board. But the more crucial innings for me is the way that India bats in the second innings. If they can, bat long, not necessarily win the match, but bat long and put up some sort of stern effort. And I don't think they're going to be able to save a draw, but they may be able to do a very good job at putting the momentum in their favour. So what will be Indian strategy today? Just to bowl fuller, good line of length, and good attacking and appropriate field placements. But yeah, thank you. Yes, I did. I haven't dyed my hair either. My hair is the colour it is. It's my beard that's still a bit grey. I'm going to get rid of that beard very soon. So don't worry about that. I'm going to put the plug in. I got a computer warning to say my plug was not plugged in. Let me get this done. I like when it does that. Let me just put that. There we go. All right, that's better. All right. So, who is this guy, Norman? Hi. Me. I am me. That's me. Yes, it's me. I'm not happy with the way that first day went. It went perfectly well England's way. I don't think there's going to be that much of a game going their way today. I think Kohli's too much of a fighter, and he will be in the rooms talking very heavily about getting their act together for the thing. And I think they'll have to bowl fuller. I think Bumrah had no luck yesterday, and he'll have luck today. And I think then if the wickets go early, well, then we'll certainly see a certain improvement. And I looked at the specials there of Rahul, Pujara, and Kohli, and they all, were incredible, and their heads were down, the Indians. But I wouldn't say they should be that upset at the moment, because they're still 1-0 up in the series. India are still 1-0 up. It's a very commanding position. They could well have been 2-0 up. We knew England would come back at some stage, and they certainly have in this match. And James Anderson was front and centre with the bowler that did that. He led the charge, and he was ably supported by Robinson, of course. Robinson with Overton, he bowled quite well. Not that fast, though. And also, obviously, Sam Curran had a really good day. Can rain come to save us? The one time we want rain, it's not going to come. The Kohli's just to bat first. Was it wrong? No, it wasn't wrong. They just didn't apply themselves well enough. And had Rahul not gotten out, and had Rohit Sharma and Rahul batted for the first session, we would have had a very different story. We would have had 4 or 5 down for 240 by the end of the day's play. So it's a pity that they fell early. It exposed Pujara very quickly as well. And both Kohli was out relatively quickly. But then Hardy and Rohit Sharma did a pretty good job, considering all. Hi, Sunday. How are you? I see you join me on Instagram and on other platforms like Instagram and I think Twitter as well. Stephanie Sansoni. Yes, I do. I certainly do. All right. Let's have a look at what's going on. We've got a situation there, guys, where there's a lot of positivity come out of this match for sure. And I'm pretty excited about the way that England have played. I think it creates. I'm very, very happy about, of course, Milan, because I think Milan's going to get a great opportunity to score big going down, and it's his opportunity of a lifetime. He's in a great situation to really take hold of this match and show some great application. And they shouldn't let the lead go. Siraj needs to be given a chance to bowl, say, first. Yeah, I agree. Should my judgment of comments? No, really. Please bring Isha Gill on the show. I'd love to, but I think she's contracted with her various television commitments, and those people tend to be like, anyone that's on television or have got strict contractual arrangements, like even Catherine McGregor in Australia, who I've done a lot of work with, would love to come on my show, but Sky News won't let her get on. So that's contractual. Okay. Are you decided about Punt's performance? Yeah, Punt's thinking about looked a bit hesitant. If he's going to play his natural game, play it properly. Don't play half-heartedly. The little dab outside stuff she nicked was awful. But, we've got more important things to worry about. Let's see how they go in the second innings. Then we'll judge the situation. And why did it? I don't know. That was a strange one. I don't know what they must have had a plan that didn't work. Yes, England will win, though. They look like they're going to win, that's for sure. We're not taking it away. It'll be 1-1 if they do win it with 2 tests left, which sets up a great finish. But ebbs and flows of a match are very typical, aren't they? So God's own country, they call it, and the Almighty himself could barely have rustled a better day for England in Yorkshire. They certainly have it was their prime day. Now they need to really slam it home. Hamid got 60 and Jory Burns is in his 50s. I would argue Hamid looked scratchy despite that. Should age be dropped the next match? Well, hang on a minute. Also, I think Ashman's going to be in the next match, yes. And that could imply if Ashman gets a Guernsey, then you might see Juday's dropped, yes. It's 80% at 1. Of course it is. Of course it is. It's very much that way. If England get bowled out today, they'll be still on front by 200 plus, so they would be okay with that, although they'd probably blocked a bit longer than that. Depends on the weather conditions. If there's an overcast day, we might see wickets fall. We might see even an early finish to the match, as what David Graveney had said earlier, if you saw the show. So teams batting second, ending the day one with a first innings lead without losing wickets. New Zealand were at none for 160 after Pakistan were all out for 104 in 2001. England were none for 157 when Australia were out for 98 in Melbourne in 2010. England were none for 120 in this match. So it's the third best performance like that. England were none for 157 against an all-out Australian side at 98 at Melbourne. That was quite one-sided, wasn't it? And people are asking the question, what just happened? It is a bit of a shock to both England and India, especially after the fact that India had England all out for 120, all out in the last innings of the previous test, the second test at Lords. Yet this time they're none for 120. Quite remarkable. It's a mental situation by a long shot. I think the mental stimulation is there where you need to actually be in the right frame of mind. And England was certainly in the right frame of mind yesterday. Everything started well when KL Rahul nicked Anderson very early in the piece, and it only went one way, and that was up for England. Certainly. All right, let's have a look here. I was talking about the Australian situation before. There was an article. I'll go through the article. It's quite disturbing. This is the article from. There was an article from Malcolm Conn, and I'll go through it. So Gill will be coming in about half an hour's time. So I'll talk for I'll go through this Australian situation, and I'll read a bit about what I saw. When you win the match, all your faults get hidden up. That's what happened here. Yeah, that's partly true, JS. I agree with you. Let's have a look at this. I'll just go through an article. I'm digressing a bit from this match, but I think it's important to hear it. This was to do with the situation with Justin Langer. And it's quite, you could argue it's pretty disturbing. I'll pull it up. So the Sydney Morning Herald, Malcolm Conn with Daniel Brettick talked about the mutiny is a wake-up call to Cricket Australia after sleeping on Langer's problem for the last 2 years. So they believe this problem with Langer has been going on for 2 years. A full-scale mutiny, quite a heavy word, of players and support staff was needed for Cricket Australia to notice a fundamental problem with Justin Langer's intense and abrasive coaching style. Despite spending $100,000 on 2 reviews, it took an emergency meeting with team leaders last week for Cricket Australia Chairman Earl Eddings and recently appointed Chief Executive Nick Hockley to find out an implosion was taking place heading to the Ashes this summer. An implosion. That's quite a heavy statement for an Australian side. And this whole thing, Langer's take on that feedback that was given at the start of the West Indies tour was, it has come as a surprise, he said. Maybe I'm being a sook, but in 3 years I hadn't heard from the chairman, the Cricket Australian board. I hadn't heard from the 2 CEOs. I hadn't heard from 2 high performance managers. I hadn't heard from any of the people I work with, and I certainly hadn't heard from any of the players what had been so widely reported. Either he's blind, that's quite an incredible statement. That was completely at odds with what players and sports staff have been saying for more than 2 years. Just last week, Eddings and Hockley needed an emergency meeting to be held on at this stage. So really, it seems to be the players, they've been leaking in the press a little bit as well. There's been a bit of an issue there as well. But, there's enough evidence that things haven't been heard. Now, we heard Osman Khawaja say about Nigel in the back for Justin Langer. That's also a pretty heavy statement, I must say. But it obviously there's been some session, and even and you've got to commend Usman Khawaja. You have to commend Usman Khawaja because he has come out and just discussed his own dropping from the team, and he just quietly wasn't happy about it, as most players wouldn't be. He felt that he should still be, and he still maintains that, and I agree with him. He said that Trevor Holmes was also adjusting in that decision-making process for him to be selected. The reality was that he was dropped, and he was not happy about it. There was obviously a bit of an element of dissent between the two. He claimed he rather liked Langer, and the fact is that they were open and transparent about what things were going on. That's a fair comment, but it does look like there's a lot of people not happy with it. The problem is not Langer, but the players. That's a pretty good point too. I think the players are playing badly, and they're trying to use scapegoats for their own play. I would argue that could well be the case. As Langer going to retire, I think he'll coach somewhere. I think he may coach around the world, but he's not going to retire as such. No, but his contracted time is May next year, and I would say there's no hope in hell that he'll be considered. Good hair day, thank you. Who is a celebrity? It's me. Yes, it's me. Norman's haircut is dope. Is that good? I don't know. Ben Stokes is coming soon. I don't think he is. Do you see the weather in cloud and cold as Arctic? Well, it'll be cold there. It'll be overcast, which is not unusual for Leeds, but I think you'll find that there's no problems with the game being on, and I would argue that the biggest problem will be if England can get their act together early in the morning, because that's going to be the test. If India can get some wickets, get a string of wickets early on, they could pare back that lead somewhat. They certainly won't be in the lead, but they'll be paring it back, which means if England have 150 lead, that won't be as big a success as what the lead they should be getting, which should be close to 300 the way the game is set up. We've got looking at I've saw some batting of Hamid. He scored 11 for us, and he's 60. A lot of cuts and shots through square of the wicket, that is, and even quite a few through the slips. He was one that when he got his 50, that should have been caught by Rohit Sharma. So Hamid, I don't want to say he's lucky because he's got 60 runs. He can't be knocked by that. But I think he wasn't exactly, he's not necessarily in a rich vein of form at all, to be honest. I think he's far from that. Rory Burns, on the other hand, is very stable, and I think that you'll find that he will be a huge advantage for their side, and I think he'll even do okay in Australia. Crawley will probably come back into the squad. James Vince will be floating around, and today is the day of reckoning for Darwin Milan, because he is a perfectly set up situation for him to score and score big, and he could really hammer his position down, not unlike Rahul did by scoring a big 100 today. So even Hamid, who's scored his top score is 82, so he's on 60 now, would hope to be bettering his top score with a century, and Burns as well. So there's a few players that have got a lot to prove in that top three. Joe Root's got nothing to prove. He's certainly in good form. Bairstow's pretty happy with his form. So, yeah, it's these top three that either India get them out pretty cheaply today and pare back the score, or those three really make hay while the sun shines. Well, at least while the overcast clouds are there, but relative dryness in the pitch. Yeah, so it's a very intriguing stage of the play, actually. And, yeah, I don't know whether we haven't exactly seen the full second innings yet, although it couldn't have went any better for England. There's no doubt about it. I mean, Rory Burns just seemed to be sweeping on middle stump there, as he's just done, with a great deal of style. And I never thought Rory Burns would be a sweeper, but he obviously is. And he's facing Siraj and he's driving. He drove very well, cover drove and off drove very well. Played some pretty handsome cut shots. Rory Burns looks good. I mean, despite getting more runs, looked a bit more shakier. That was just my impression. Siraj bowled relatively forward, very wide. The wicket certainly was in favour of the England batting. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, I think the Indian bowlers were not mentally or physically there today. yesterday at least, and that may be the problem, in terms of what we saw. But Bumrah will come out firing today, and so will Siraj. So I think we're heading in for a really, really good day of cricket. And Milan is certainly one that, as I said earlier, will be the one to take his opportunities when given. Now, Rory Burns has impressed me. Yeah, I think he's a lot more going on that's good than not. What Kohli did? Well, Kohli did nothing much really. So he also make a strong comeback after losing. What's your prediction for the last 2 tests? I did say 3-1, didn't I? I'm still going to stick to that. I think England will win this match, which will be 1-1. But I reckon India will come back and win the last 2, which will be pretty impressive. Let's see. I'm still saying that. Or it could be 2-2. Yeah, there's a lot of talk about Ashwin warming the bench, and he should be playing the next 2 games at any cost. Also, there's no doubt that he'll be playing the next match at the Oval as it suits spinners. And that was a great delivery I just saw from Jadeja, completely beat Burns and the keeper and go through for 4 byes now. They could have easily bowled him. See, Jadeja is the one that Ashwin will have to replace. And Thakur may come in for someone like an Ishan Sharma ball. Wait and see. There's a ball I'm just watching here from yesterday, and it spun a heap from, it almost cleaned up his off stump. Quite incredible how it didn't bowl him. Amazing. Rory Burns could have been gone there. It's some frustration, certainly evidence there. Certainly are some frustrations. Okay, guys, questions. Burns looks awesome with you, Ollie Bass. Yeah, I know they've still got Milan, Root, Best that are coming. That's a lot of batting. And then you've got Ali and Butler, who are going to be freer to bat, you would think. And Overton can bat. And Robinson's not exactly poor either. So, yeah, it's a pretty reasonable the number of batsmen to come. Some England look all good, don't they? Before they were very fragile, we were saying, but it's funny how they've only made 2 changes to the side. Milan's come in for Sibley. Hamid's gone to opener. The other change, of course, is the bowling ranks. Wood was a forced injury, and that brought in Overton. So England didn't actually change their side all that much. India didn't change the side at all. And I'm proud of that. And I know we're going to knock Pujara and Rahane a lot, but I give them just hang back a little bit. Still time for them to resurrect this performance. Perhaps not win the match, but certainly make it a good fist of it. Let's hope that happens. Yeah, there's a point here. What contrast from Lord's test to the Headingley test? How can you play such low-grade cricket? Shame on the Indian players. Of all the Indians, is shocked the way they perform. Well, it is a bit of a shock. I wouldn't say shame on them. Let's wait until the end of the game to see what falls out there. Sam Curran, much better performance from Sam Curran yesterday. He bowled particularly well, and I think that's going to set him in good stead for his batting as well. Looking at Shami bowling, so he bowled too short, and Hamid had a bit of a field day hitting balls through the point region off. Shami bowled far too short. There's no doubt about that. They really are taking punt to. Just hang back. New Zealand are very happy with their T20 squad. New Zealand, obviously, having won the World Test Championship, they're a bit smug at the moment. Understandably so. I mean, they have just won the World Test Championship. They're deemed to be the best team in the world. Now it's time to change this. So we keep saying that. We'll wait and see. Ashwin in for Jadeja and Sharma for Sharma. That's probably, I think that probably would be a fair comment. Who will win the Stays play? Well, at this point, you'd have to say England, but it's up to India to arrest this lead by as much as they can by good bowling, line and length, full of balls, and hopefully the Knicks will go their way. Yeah, they have been pretty good. They made some pretty good calls. Yeah, I would agree with that. There's a comment here about Sachin Tendulkar being a liability in the latter part of his career. Are we comparing him to what Kohli's doing? I know it's very difficult to drop Kohli, and I'm not saying we should drop Kohli, but he should be considered over time for his position. But yes, but don't forget, his captaincy record is still around the 59% rate. He's captained the most games for India, amazing. Now, Ravi Chandra Jadeja's come off last night. He looked like he was limping somewhat, so that's a bit of a worry. I hope there's nothing serious. But that only lent itself to Ashwin in the Sonics next game. Yep, Burns cutting. Sharmi was a little bit disappointing yesterday. There's no doubt about that. Certainly was a bit disappointing. All right, so tell me something. Okay. I think you're right. You see Sky in the next match, Surya Kumayada. Well, I don't know whether they're going to put him in next match. Let's just wait and see the second innings from the Indian batters. Let's just judge on that, and we'll go from there. He's in the mix there. Will the pitch help fast bowl say? If it's overcast, yes. Day 2 batting, wicket and bowling. Normally, the day 2 is a better batting wicket. Certainly, if the clear skies above, then England will have a field day. But early on, there should be some movement, especially if there's overcast conditions. There'll be some movement, and therefore, you would argue that, it'll be potentially some good bowling conditions early on, but the batting should be trying for it through the day. If India doesn't get wickets in this session, should I ask to bowl post-lunch and contribute something? It's a bit nasty, Graveny. You're trying to say that they haven't played well and nothing with the bats. They should do something with the ball. Okay. Interesting. Interesting indeed. Have a look here. I don't think that's the case. What's the time? The time at the moment is, well, it's 10:10 in England, 7:10 p.m. here. The game will start in about 50 minutes. We're going to be joined in about 20 minutes by Gurkirat Gill, who'll join us. We'll talk some more about the Indian perspective. The match starts in 49 minutes. I think if England go over 300, it will be very difficult for India. What do you think? Of course it will be. There'll be no doubt at all. Absolutely. Yeah, the game starts at 11 a.m. in England and 3:30 in India, which is in fact 8 o'clock where I am, so another 49 minutes. Kohli, when asked on World Cup win in his captaincy, he said, I achieved enough that I could walk off at any time. That's relatable. Yeah, okay. Kohli will know when his time is up, guys. Don't worry. He won't pursue playing longer just to be stubborn. He'll know. He's still got a few years left in him at captaincy level and test level. Certainly has. It's his short form that probably hasn't quite there's so much more to play there. Will he continue more in short form or will he continue more in the long form? That is the question. Because at some stage he's going to have to make a decision. There's no doubt about that. Kohli will have to make a decision between the short or long form. And if he is a lover of Test cricket, which I think he is, you may see him give up short form at some stage, which is a hell of a loss for the short form. I'll tell you, they really will miss his play because he's the best T20 player statistically in the world, and he's right up there with the best ODI player. And his Test career, well, it's very commendable as well. So I've got no doubts we'll see a lot more of him. Kohli went, okay, well, the current Indian cricket team culture makes me sick. They don't practice much of this. They previous. I don't know. I'm sure Kohli does. How many overs were bowled yesterday? I think 80 overs were bowled over range. Again, yeah, absolutely. Oh, look, Piyush Upadhyaya, there's every chance that will happen. We just don't know. Rain, please come. It's not going to come. If India restrict England to 250, that they are in the game. Yes, they will be. But they need Rohit and Rahul to do and punt and Jadeja to score more. Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I can't see India winning this test match. Let's be honest. But that's okay. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. At all. Mohammad Siraj bowled pretty full. There was one delivery where he actually hit Hamid on the foot, and there was an LBW proposal, and they didn't go upstairs, surprisingly. I don't think they did. And it was very close to the end of the day's play. And Kohli's not sure whether to go upstairs, and he doesn't go upstairs, he leaves it. But on replay, I think that it was a lot closer. Yeah, Robert Sharma certainly dropped a catch, or didn't make an effort for a catch that he should have last night. That was where Hamid was on 47. He went and scored 100 from the ball that was nicked through the slips and went for 4. So at that point, he would have probably done well. Match drawn, that's going to be very unlikely. It's going to be either an England win, it won't be a match drawn. Even Ray can't say India due to bad luck. No, I don't think so. What India batsmen score here? Well, let's hope they do. Well, they can't go any worse than 78. Put it that way. There's so much time left in the Test match. So much time. That's the problem. No, it's okay. Let's just, if they don't win, this is not the end of the world. It means they've 1-1 with 2 Test matches to go. So they're still in a great position to do very well for the rest of the series. So let's not forget that. Let's not underplay their play at all. They've done very well. We're going to wait for when Gurkirat Gill comes on. He'll be talking a fair bit about his thoughts, and I do like what he says. He tends to be very much on the ball, certainly. But yeah, but look, Shane Warne or Murali, in terms of the best bowler ever, Shane Warne, even though Murali's taken more wickets, I'd say Shane Warne was the most impacting. He was certainly in the Wisdom's team of the century. If it was last century, he was certainly right up there. Everyone else was Sir this, Sir that, and he wasn't given a Sir or knighthood, so he joked about that. But Murali was a very good bowler, very difficult to pick, but bowled not on Sri Lankan surfaces. Warne did it all over the place, and you would argue did it very well. Oh, rain always helps England, but not India. Shame on rain. I demand that rain should destroy the match. Well, they picked the wrong match, haven't they? First home for second home for Norman Shane versus Murali. First home versus second home. I get you. Australia and Sri Lanka. That's a fair point. I mean, I'm Murali's wife. I know, met her very much. I was there the day that he broke the record over at in Kandy at the Asagiri ground. And as he was breaking the record, the cameras were on him, and I'm sitting next to his wife. If India lose this Test match, Pakistan will be onto the best point table. I don't know. I haven't followed that closely, but Pakistan certainly have done well. Young Freddie certainly is class. There's no doubt about how classy he is. All right, was waiting on Gurkirat Gill will be here soon. And we're now getting live pictures of the ground at Headingley LEEDS. I don't think it's called, there's a live, yes, Ted Dexter, who lived from 1935 to 2021, has passed away this morning. Ted Dexter played for England, was a champion player, and he will be sadly missed. He's certainly someone of great quality. Ted Dexter was a great player. And I need to post about that as well. Yeah, there'll be a bit of commentary about that. I think it's very sad to see when the cricket we start to lose them. There'll be a few more over time as well. The one between Pakistan, winners, obviously Pakistan. Lara or C. Smith, Lara, clearly. Things are becoming unpredictable. Well, that was one innings in both cases, and what did they do after that? They came back brilliantly. Can you guys, how many wickets will fall in the first session, and what will be the score at the end of the day's play? Okay, I'm being positive for India, but India will take, I hope to see them take a few wickets, and they could have England all out for 275, which means they'll be in front by close to 200, which is enough to be in ascendancy. But yeah, I think India will bring them back somewhat, no doubt. I don't know where Parna is. She's normally on. Can Hazim may score a century? Of course he can. He's on 60. He should by all means do it. But I've got a feeling there'll be a few wickets in the early session, and we'll see. India get back into the game a little bit. My first prediction, they're none for 120 now. I think they're going to be 3 for 180, 3 for 189. My prediction is after the first session, I'll be 3 for 189. Steve should end Clouderson's career in Ashes so Coley can relax. You're talking about Steve Smith in Australia. Coley can relax. Well, be interesting how long. I mean, I actually think that Clouderson or Anderson will play as long as he possibly can. I think he's gunning for the overall most wickets. He's about 170 odd behind. It's a long way off, you might think, but if he goes 3 seasons, he could do it. But whether he plays that long, he's going to do his level best. Yeah, India's bowling was not good enough. I would argue that it's true. I think Shami was too short. Bumrah didn't look that great either. Although sorry, I'll tell you that. Bumrah did look good. He just didn't take any wickets. Yeah, I think you're right. Back your bowlers. True. Today could be a long day for Indian bowlers. Could be. But he is 39. But so is Gale as well. Just checking a few things, guys. Yeah, it's a frustrating point of the day. We'll wait and see what happens. Garrett Banker, Jadeja has been disappointing with the ball. He has been. Yeah, I agree with that. Gale is 41. Exactly. Full pitch attempted Indian batsmen to play their shots. I guess that's true. Jimmy is 39. I know he's 39. He's still playing well, though. Yes. To be honest, if India managed to avoid innings defeat, then they can go home happy. Yeah, I agree. India will be known for 70 end of day's play. That'll be fantastic in that case. I think England will bat the whole day today. It's going to be a big effort. We haven't really seen how the cricket will go. There's no guarantee at this point that it'll be any different to what it was yesterday when wickets fell. Ashes England got bowled out for 7 and won the Test match. That's a very good point. England did that. That was Ben Stokes. So maybe Rishabh Pant's the answer. Wouldn't that be amazing? Batting is much easier than pace bowling at all age. I would have thought so too. So the fact that he can bowl well is quite a shock, isn't it? Just looking at the scenario here, we've got Nasser Hussain's talking, had a bit of a discussion earlier on. Nasser Hussain's pretty good tactician. He's a very good cricketer as well, of course. And Root's out there in the field practicing away. He's going to be batting, I think, today. And Michael Holding, who's now local to England, I think he lives almost permanently in England now. I think Ashwin will come into play today. Ashwin will come back on the 4th test, yes. Australia, please teach Barmy Army fans some discipline, and actually they should cry. Let's hope. Catch them, win matches. Catch them, win matches. Exactly. Your favourite commentator? I like Michael Holding, actually, the current crop. I like Shane Warne as a commentator. I like previously Tony Gregg, Richie Benaud, and Bill Lawry. They were all fantastic. Yeah, Milan's going to be interesting. It's his big opportunity today to do well. Absolutely. Yeah, Jimmy Anderson's amazing for 39. He is amazing. And if he keeps going, he certainly could threaten Warne's 700. Whether he gets to Murali's 800, it'll be interesting. Nasser should be a coach for England. He reads the game well and knows how to get stuff. Yeah, he does. It's true. Absolutely. Yours is Harsha Borgley. Okay. All doing breaks on the mark. Well, he's at 629 at the moment. He's every chance to do that in a few matches left here, and then playing the Ashes, he could get 20 or 30. If he plays early next season, he'll get 20 or 30. He's got a very red hot chance of reaching Warnes. Whether he's got time to play enough to be able to beat Morley will be difficult. But he's the best fast bowler, wicket-wise, of all time, best Englishman of all time. So he's only going to be 2 spinners to get up there. So it's like wine. The older it gets, the better he becomes. It's true. Why Shane Warne is doing commentary in India versus England? He loves England. Shane Warne spends a lot of time in England. I think he might have property there as well. But he's getting paid. I'm sure he's getting paid very, very well there for what he does. So that that's probably why. Yeah. So Hamid did score 11 fours yesterday. That was pretty impressive. And then you don't take a wicket in the first test and then getting across 500 is probably a bit too much, but they can do well. What would you advise England's when they go out to play today? I would say they keep the ball fuller and outside of stump and don't give anything short, especially to Burns and Hamid, and pepper him at his off stump, and they'll get him. When was the last time 3 Indian batsmen scored a century in the same innings? A long time. In fact, it's a good question. I don't know offhand. How about someone go back and Google it? Is Shane Warne ICC Hall of Fame? Yes. England guys are embarrassed. It comes to around that. I don't know that they're embarrassed. They were disappointed, certainly. All right. What's my favourite Indian food? I would argue it's a whole common. I love a butter chicken. I love a vindaloo curry. I like a good naan. I like a lot of Sri Lankan food. Obviously, Sri Lankan food is one of my favourites. The mutton curries or the goat curry, certainly. Paripu, which is another word for lentils or dal. I love that as well. There was a time when Australian batsmen were scoring 5 centuries in one innings. That was a long time ago. When did Rohit Sharma score a century? I don't know offhand, but it's been a while. Headingley pitched only after something to bowlers in the first session. Other than that, it turns back. Yeah, you're right. It is an early morning thing. It's about the cloud cover. Yes. Can't remember. Just show you how Indian batsmen have fallen. Yeah. Well, I don't know about Sanders. I mean, Rahul scored a brilliant century early on in this series. There was an Australian batsman was scoring 5. Yeah, we're talking about it. Okay. All right, Nasser Hussein's talking quite a bit there. So Michael Holding's a very astute man. He's a very, very clever authoritarian about cricket, for sure. I have a lot of time for him. Well, Mike Atherton certainly has had a lot of chats to David Malan pre-match. A lot of discussions with David Malan about his performance. That's going to be red hot where I'll be watching when the wicket falls and he comes in. Let's hope David Malan. I've got a good feeling about him. I think he's going to really do what he has to do and do it well. So we're waiting on Gill, so he was coming, so he must be very close. What about after him? I'm looking for the number of Gill. So 3 p.m. is 3 p.m. at your time, in Indian time is 7:30. Guys, just 1 second. I'm going to get some. I feel like I need an ice cream. Be 2 seconds, guys. Give me just 2 seconds. It's a funny request, isn't it, for me to go and get an ice cream? But, I'm on here for an hour and a half, guys. I've got to go out and have a bit of a break sometimes, have a bit of a... Back from my meeting. Munchie, you want to join? Can you come on for a little while? Because I've got Gill coming on soon too. Munchie, have you got the link? If you have, come online. So I'm about to eat an ice cream while I'm talking. So let's have a look. Purinjay Sachdeva is in Australia, correct? That's great. Whereabouts are you? Robert hasn't scored a century in over 6 century yet. I don't know that. Is that true? I thought I sent the link to him. Let's have a look. No. Copy. I'm surprised he doesn't want to go. I thought he wouldn't want to get on there. There we are. So Milan would be very happy to come to bat in this situation. Coley has, he's certainly seen his peak now. We are seeing his declining thoughts. No, I don't think it's his decline at all. Munchie Charlie, no. Where are you in Australia? You're in Sydney. Whereabouts in Sydney? An irresistible mini, it's called. Coley saw his last century in November 2019. That's a while ago. But he's capable, if he gets the century now, he'll just go on with it. He gets one, he'll get a florry. You watch. I can't remember Greg Chappell when he got 7 ducks. 7 ducks in a row. Can you believe that? The quality of batsman of Greg Chappell got 7 ducks in a row. And then all of a sudden, he got centuries.
Hey guys, everyone. Good morning.
Hello.
Good evening.
This is Norman, by the way. Munchie's not my younger brother. Don't worry.
It's amazing. Yeah. Okay. Even if I have a few days growth, and I've said before, it gets very grey with a bit of ginger. My wife says, "Well, once I've shaved it, it's taking the years off you." Honestly, Norman, I was like, bloody hell. Yeah.
It looks like I've lost weight. Well, I have. I had a huge beard. I still haven't got rid of the bottom bit yet. I'm struggling because I had to use, your little nail scissors. I was using nail scissors.
Oh,
I was using a very poor rate shaver.
Yeah.
It took forever to get to this stage. I tell you, it was a bloody struggle. Now we're come on in force here.
Hey, Gurkirat, how are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you, Munchie?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah.
Hi, Gill. This is Norman's younger brother, Stephen.
Yeah, I was about to say that. It looks quite different.
Not Susan, Stephen.
You not wearing the cap gave it away. Not the beard cut or anything else, but you not wearing the cap gave it away, because the Norman I know, doesn't leave any opportunity of self promotion. So yeah.
Well, I just washed my hair, and I want my hair to, dry, basically.
Hang on, let me do it for you, Norman. There we go. Let's just go.
Oh, good on you. Where show us it? There we are. Good
there we
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it disappears. Good stuff.
Sorry. Prabhahan, you're right. It's so messy behind me. I have to have the green screen, virtual screen behind me. So sorry when my head keeps flickering. You can see there's a bit of crap behind me. So it's just so messy otherwise. So very distracting. Gary, Chris is so busy during the summer. I know you'd like to see him, but he does a lot of playing, obviously, for the MCC, but also does a lot of coaching as well. So that's probably why he's not on during the day. Yeah.
A little secret, everyone. Don't tell anyone, please. Just between us three. He's got a new girlfriend. Good to know.
Oh, well, I know the old girlfriend, so I need to find out from Chris what the hell's going on. Yeah.
Yeah, well, apparently he's got a new girlfriend. I don't mean a girlfriend on the side. I mean a full-on new girlfriend. So
that's news to me. Yep.
I'm hoping Munchie is not your daughter. That was his previous girlfriend. No. All right. That would have been a bombshell. Imagine him here publicly announcing that he's got a new girlfriend, and you're the father of his previous girl. That would be a bit of a shock. No.
Yeah, I
No.
don't think Chris
All
would be
right.
that brave. Yeah.
So, Gill, what the hell happened yesterday? What the hell happened?
Absolutely poor batting. I've said it on a couple of occasions. I was on Bharat Army. I even tweeted it that the batting performance yesterday was worse than what happened at in 36 for all out. Because when 36 for all out happened, it was a pink ball. There were 4 or 5 unplayable deliveries from Hazelwood and Cummings. Hazelwood completed his 5 in 5 overs, so he really didn't give any chance to the Indian batsmen. Yesterday, it was it was actually down to poor batting. You look at all the first 6 dismissals. Usually it's Ajinkya Rahane who throws his wicket away, but yesterday I thought only he was the one who got a good delivery, and everyone else threw their wickets away or played loose shots. You look at KL Rahul. The drive was there to be played, but again, probably the first over may well could have avoided. Pujara was a very similar dismissal to what had happened in Lords in the first innings. Virat Kohli once again, till that point of time, he was looking good, he was leaving well, and then again, he missed that ball didn't even swing a lot, the one that got him out, and he should have actually driven it down the ground for 4. You look at Pant's dismissal, a waft outside the off stump, not even a proper shot. You look at Rohit's dismissal, a nothing shot once again. So, like I said, it's a very exceptional innings in the sense that all like 5 wickets of the top order were worse than Ajinkya Rahane's, which is not the norm. You usually see Ajinkya Rahane throw his wicket away, which he didn't, and everyone else did. It was just extremely and incredibly poor batting, which has ensured that India are pretty much out of this test match, barring a miracle. And miracles don't happen every day. We've had
Miracles do tend to happen at Headingley, though, Gurkirat. Yeah, we've seen them before. 1981, a couple of years ago, and you look on the feed yesterday, and it was so doom and gloom, and that's to be expected. India just had a bad day, but look, there's 25 days of Test cricket. India have had a bad day. The game's not over. It's not over yet.
It's not done yet, but India have had their share of miracles in this year. They've had Gava, they've had Lord, so. From that aspect, you would probably say that, okay, maybe their luck for miracles has run out. Because if India have to be in the game, they have to be batting by the end of the day today. Simple as that.
Definitely, yeah.
If that is not happening, then they should be looking to protect their bowlers and ensure that someone like a Bumrah or a Siraj or a Shami is not being bowled into the grounds. The last thing that I want is someone like Bumrah to bowl 50 overs in this test match.
And that's exactly the point I was just about to make, Gurkirat, because the game has moved on so much in one day. People, well, what's the expectation? Now, if I was the England captain, I'd be saying, right, guys, I want you to bat for 2 days. For the one reason is you've got another test coming in a few days' time. You want to bowl the Indian bowlers into the ground. But at the same time, you need to be able to then get enough runs so that you can then try and bowl India out. But if the Headingley wicket is getting flatter, at the same measure, you don't really want to flog your own bowlers for 2 days trying to get India out, knowing that in another 4 days' time, you've got another test match. So it's very interesting how you're going to handle it, because the wicket yesterday, Nasser Hussain, even in his pitch report, said it was slightly tacky. And then, as the sun would be on it, it would dry out, and the wicket would flatten out, and that's what happened. Yeah, there were a few reckless shots, but that ball was moving around.
It was tacky, but I thought it wasn't much different from what India faced at Lords on day 1. It was tacky, but even though there was swing, a lot of swing was happening after the ball had passed the batsman, after the ball had passed the wickets, because. In Headingley, your natural length is a lot fuller than what it is at other grounds. So it is. So it also allows the batsman to cover it much better than what you would do at any other ground. And a lot of swing was happening once the ball was passing the batsman. You look at all the leaves that Virat Kohli did. You look at all the leaves that Rohit Sharma was leaving. The ball was swinging after it had passed the batsman. So it really shouldn't have bothered Indian batsmen so much. It's just that they were incredibly poor. It was more poor than 36 for all out, 36 all out, because during 36 all out there were a few unplayable deliveries. You had to give it to George Hazelwood and you had to give it to Pat Cummings that day.
Yeah, yesterday, but that pink ball just moves all over the place.
Yeah, exactly. This was a red one. So yesterday India have essentially gone been bowled out for less than 80 to 1.5 bowlers, Jimmy Anderson and a bit of Ollie Robinson, because Craig Overton hardly bowled, and Sam Curran also, by the time he came on to bowl and he took those wickets, the innings was done and dusted.
Yeah.
There wasn't much left. So yeah.
Look, can I just say something here? I still think it's, even though it was an amazing day for England yesterday, it's still a little bit early. We just have to wait and see what England do today. They could be bundled out for 200 odd, right? And although it's still in England's favour, it may not be so dramatically that way. I don't think we've got to see the full England batting lineup to see what actually happens here.
No, I agree,
really
and really, it's now obviously the heavy emphasis is towards England. Win-Viz, whatever, will be favouring England. Now, this is an ideal opportunity for that very fragile England batting lineup to try and get some confidence. Now, because what you've got to do is, right, you just got to bat, occupy the crease, do what they were doing yesterday, get the quick singles, try and rotate the strike. Because if you can keep the Indian bowlers out there all day, and this is the way Test cricket works, by that post-tea session, the bowlers are getting tired. The second new ball is probably now 20 or 30 overs old, so that's going to get softer. The bowlers are tired, and that's when you really get your runs. Because generally, if you look at it, first, second, third session, most runs are scored in the third session. And that's what England should be trying to do. Now, I think you mentioned it yesterday, Norman, and people certainly mentioned it, is given England's position, if and when England lose the first wicket, Malan's going to come in and he's going to be in a situation where he's not under pressure like Hamid was at Lords, being 1 for 1 or 5 for 1, for example. You are going to be 40, 50, 60 effectively for 1.
I don't think even Hamid or Burns were under pressure. Once you've bowled out the opposition for 78, you are allowed that much freedom. And this was evident 2 days ago as well, when Pakistan were playing West Indies. Both the Pakistan openers had not even added 50 runs individually in 3 innings so far. I think Abid Ali had around 40 runs and Imran Butt had around 11 or 12 runs in 3 innings. But because they knew that they had 150 run lead behind them, they came out all guns blazing, because they knew 1 or 2 boundaries, and that would ensure that the captain takes out the slip, probably brings in a ODI kind of a free. And when that happens, there is hardly any pressure, because if you drive it hard enough, a edge will probably miss the second slip or go over the second slip. So
Hamid had a couple of snicks through the slips. Now, this is where the luck favoured England yesterday. The snick that Hamid got his 50 on another day, Rohit would have taken that catch. And then just sometimes that's the way Test cricket goes.
And Rohit is one of the safest catches in this Indian team. He really doesn't drop anything.
Yeah. Look, let's not forget. Okay, England had a lot less pressure on the batting, but India had enormous pressure on their bowling. They've just realised their team's only got 78. When they go out to bowl, they know that they've got to be on song, and that actually brought forward short deliveries and wide deliveries. When you pressurise a bowler to bowl well, it's funny how they end up bowling shorter and wider. I don't know why that is. It's just you lose your confidence.
It was the desperation. It was the desperation to get wickets. Because the batsmen did not show any patience, the situation didn't allow for bowlers to show any patience. It is as simple as that. You really can't blame the bowlers for what happened yesterday, because there's so much of pressure on them that they can't even have attacking fields. And that happens when you scored around 200 runs. Now, when you've not even managed to score 100 runs, imagine the pressure. It's such a bad and poor performance that your 3, 4, and 5, the cream of your batting, they haven't even played 100 balls in this innings. Not even, forget scoring hundreds. Forget combined score of 100 from all 3 of them. They haven't even managed to bat 100 balls in this innings. Extras was the 3rd highest score. Rohit scored 19, Rahane scored 18, and then there was extra 16. No one else even touched 10. That is how bad it was. You could say the ball was singing, the ball was seaming, etc., etc. But at the worst, it should have been a 200 or all-out wicket. At the worst.
But that was yesterday. You can't change yesterday, so you've got to come in today. Right, what can we do? What can we manage? Right, okay, given the position we've in, let's try and restrict England to 250. Let's just try and bowl tighter, better lines, put the pressure. You're right, Gurkirat. We can't, India can't have, 4 or 5 slips, men around the bat, etc. But what they can do, at least bowl better, get the line and length there, and make England work for the runs. Now, the wickets is going to get flatter and flatter. Just make it hard. That's all you can do, and then hopefully wait for mistakes, make sure the catches get taken. They are good bowlers. You're not going to suddenly change from one test to another to say, oh, you're now a crap bowler. They're not. They are good bowlers.
And let's be honest. I mean,
yesterday's
it's a matter of. Sorry, I was just going to say before you go, Gill, go on about the bowling. Ishant Sharma opened the bowling yesterday, did he not? That was, I would argue, a mistake. Siraj should have been the quality bowler they should have brought on earlier. And this morning, it must be Siraj that opens with Bumrah.
I think, somewhere the consensus was to get a bowler whose natural length is fuller than usual. And if you look at the natural lengths of all the four paces, Ishant's the most fullest one. But what has happened yesterday is that I thought Ishant was again not 100% fit, which was the case in the last test match as well, which comes to me as a surprise that they still chose to go ahead with him and not play Ashwin because he was not 100% fit. And, it might come back to bite them. But anyway, it's still something that they can work with because Ishant, even though not fit in the last game, he still picked up 5 wickets across 2 innings. So, but today I think they should start with Siraj and Bumrah, and hopefully it should give them wickets, because if it doesn't happen, then it's another long day coming for the Indian bowlers. And honestly, you have to feel bad for the Indian bowlers because of the batting performance that has been put up. I mean, it's really hard.
It's the same for the England bowlers, Gurkirat. That's the problem. The England bowlers will flog their guts out trying to bowl India out. The batsmen then come in, get rolled for 50 or 60 overs, and the bowlers have not really had a rest. And I think we said this before the series started. The series will be determined by the quality of the bowling sides, because both sides, there were fragility in their batting lineup, because people have often said when you get as far as Pant and Jadeja, really the rest of the batting lineup should tumble. Yesterday it did, was Lords. They wagged tremendously. But it's people just got to apply themselves. Now, regarding the bowlers, I would like to see Shami opening the bowling, and I'd like to see him bowling up the hill. He does have a good length, and bowling into the hill, he will get, as Anderson was getting, this ball to kick. Because if you're bowling down the hill, the ball will tend to skid. But if you're firing the ball into the hill with his natural movement, I think Shami will be more effective.
Yesterday's test match actually reminded me of Perth, the Perth test match in 2012 between India and Australia. India were bowled out for 161, and David Warner had scored 180 on his own. And this is a more embarrassing performance, because in that test match we had a Zaheer Khan who was past his peak. We had Ishant Sharma who was yet to hit his peak. Umesh Yadav was playing his first tour in Australia. Vinay Kumar was on debut. And the Indian batting lineup was washed up as well. It was the second last test match for Rahul Dravid and VVS Lakshman. And, the Indian openers were in no sort of form whatsoever. So, it's been that kind of a day. It's reminded me of that test match in Perth where India were bundled out in 3 days. Actually, in 7 sessions, to be honest, where, they scored 161, then Australia scored some 360 odd, then they were bowled out for 170 once again. And David Warner himself had scored 118 1 inning. So it was that kind of a day yesterday.
I just don't know. I mean, I just don't know whether this is going to happen. I'm not saying England's not going to win. I'm pretty certain that England are going to win this match. But I just don't know whether it's going to be that much of bundling out of India. I don't think they're going to allow the second innings around. If Rahul and Rohit get their act together early on, that's crucial. They've got to get a 100-plus partnership, which they didn't do this match so far. That's the key.
The forecast for tomorrow is a lot brighter, and if it's a mainly sunny day, you just want to be batting at Headingley. It's a flat track. So if India are batting tomorrow, then they could put a lot of pressure back on England. Score pressure is the key, but it's going to be it's an uphill task from now for India, but it's not done and dusted. India are a quality side. I know that it was doom and gloom. And as an Englishman, I thoroughly enjoyed yesterday, but it's only natural. But I'm not certainly going, we're going to win this test. Nope, it's a long way to go. Yeah. I've got to go now, Norman. Sorry, and Gurkirat, it's been a pleasure to chat with you at last. However, just one final thing. Just want to mention the unfortunate passing of Ted Dexter. If people want to read up on his life, it's fascinating what he's done as a cricketer. But what they may not know was he was a scratch golfer, right-handed, and playing. I think he was single-digit playing left-handed. He was a qualified pilot and flew his family to Australia. And yeah, amazing man. Obviously, he was the chairman of selectors for a long time for England, and also part of the panel that introduced the ICC rankings. So, yeah, we've got a lot to be thankful for Ted Dexter. Rest in peace, sir.
Thank you much. I should have mentioned it with David Graveney. He would have known him well, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So, anyway, have a good day, guys. Yeah, speak to you soon. Bye.
Thank you much. Yeah, that's a good point. They're just showing Ted Dexter quite a historic player. 86 years of age. He played 62 tests, 9 centuries. Took quite a few wickets as well when he bowled. He was a great captain. You know, around the time of the 60s, he was at his best. So, yeah, it's good to celebrate those players. But it's just going to show that these players are now getting to an age where life's coming to an end. They lost one of the Rolling Stones, the drummer for the Rolling Stones, very famous rock group. Do you have much of music interest in groups of that age at all, Gurkirat? Is it? No?
Yeah, no, I'm more of an Indian music person. I listen to a lot of Hindi and Punjabi, very little English, and no metal or no rock. It's something that I don't enjoy. But yeah,
But you know who the Beatles are. You know who the Rolling Stones are.
I've heard of them. But I wouldn't know their songs. If you ask me,
That's okay. That's right.
yeah, I've heard of them.
That's right. No, but it's just the Farouk Engineer, who was actually at the test, the law says he rang the bell. He played for India, and was he captain of India?
Not a regular captain. Might have been a captain as a standby captain. I'm not sure if he was a regular captain.
Right. I was just curious I know he was a very good player, though, and he's lauded over that. So, and it's quite good to say. Okay, realistic scores, Gill. Realistic scores for today. What do you see happening? Will India get some early wickets?
Yeah,
Like England did yesterday.
I am preparing myself for another Joe Root 100 today.
Yeah,
yeah, I am preparing myself for a painful day, so that tells you what I'm thinking. But if Indian bowlers are able to get England all out today, it would be a massive effort from them. So yeah, I think even at the worst, you would say that England will take a 200 odd run lead, because they already have a 42 run odd lead. Even if they bundle out for 150 runs from here, that would still be a 200 odd run lead. And yeah, I think India is pretty much out of the game, like they were in Kolkata 2001, where they had to remove a deficit of 200 odd runs. That might be the scenario at the end of the day, or probably tomorrow in the first session. I don't think that India can win this test match. The only thing that I'm now interested in is ensuring that, to see how the Indian batsmen bat in the second innings, and to see how Virat manages Indian bowlers. Because, like I said, I don't want someone like Bumrah bowling 50 overs in this test match. And I think the picture will be very clear by the time the second new ball comes. India have already bowled 42 overs. In 38 overs, you'll have an idea what is happening. And by that time, I think we'll know where this match is heading. If it is getting too much out of India's grasp, then I'd like Virat to bowl a lot more of Jadeja than say a Bumrah, because I like I said, I don't want any of the Indian bowlers to be injured, because there are still 2 test matches to play. I want Virat to preserve the bowlers somehow, if it is possible.
Well, Jadeja went off the field yesterday injured, didn't he? So
yeah,
I don't think he returned. Just quickly, why can't the Indian bowlers do what England did yesterday now, if the conditions are the same? Why can't they?
That is what I'm saying. I don't think it was more of England's bowlers doing than it was the harakiri of Indian batsmen.
Okay.
And it, if you look at it, there were a few chances created, but just the amount of pressure that is there. The English batsmen are now going to impose themselves. They know they are so far ahead in the game. They'll even take the odd extra risk of ensuring that the bowlers don't settle into their line, which you can't really take it if you are, say, if you're looking at a first inning score of 300. But when you've already cleared out the deficit with 10 wickets remaining, you have that much more freedom. it allows for a lot less mistakes on the bowler's part. So unless England commits some kind of a harakiri once again, I don't see the result changing. I think it would be England win in 4 days in some way or the other.
Okay, Munchie's having just been on air. He's now asked the question, is Jadeja fit? I don't think he returned yesterday. I don't think he returned to the field, did he, at the end of the day? I think he didn't return. I don't remember seeing him.
I'm not sure because I didn't catch the last hour of play. I was, traveling. So, but
Well, he had a
I
fielding
haven't-
injury. He fell over his knee or his leg in some way, and he was limping quite notably. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see what he comes out in the field today.
yeah, if he's not if he's not able to bowl, then it would be even more trouble.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah,
They're like-
but I do want to add one thing.
Yeah.
I wanted Ashwin to play. I wanted Ashwin to play purely because, like I said in the previous game, I didn't think Ishant was 100% fit, and Shami's inconsistent. Shami, we know that in 4 innings, one of the innings he will bowl unbelievably well, and then he'll concede those boundaries and not bowl well. I wanted Ishant to play, and we've seen yesterday how the second innings at Lords, especially from the batting point of view, was an anomaly. Both Bumrah and Shami were dismissed for a duck because the England bowlers bowled full to them and went through their defenses. So that is something that should have happened in Lords as well, which is why I think that the best number 8 batsman is still Ravichandran Ashwin in this Indian team, and he needs to find a spot some way or the other. India desperately
I
needs him.
would love to interview Ashwin and ask him some honest questions. How he felt when the sides were announced for the first test. Did Kohli and say Shastri sit Ashwin down and explain to him why he's not the side? Was it before that the World Test Championship?
He's spoken of that in his YouTube channel. He said that he was in contention to play the first test match, but when they saw that the conditions were overcast and the prediction was of rain, they changed their mind and played Shardul. He said it. He said it on his
And
YouTube
how
channel.
did he react to that, though? Did he react? Did he say he should have been, or he shouldn't have been, or was he happy, or was he? Did he not react to it? He must have said more than just say it.
No, he really didn't say much on it because I think at the end of the day he's a professional player. He understands that the team comes first.
Oh,
Even
Gill,
if he-
come off, Kill.
So
Don't
even
give
if
it. Are you
what I'm
kidding
saying
me?
is that
Are you
even if he
kidding me?
felt bad, what I'm saying is that even if he felt bad, he's not someone like James Anderson who will speak about it in the middle of the
Ashwin
series.
would like to play every single match because he wants
Of
to break
course.
all the records.
Of course. But what I'm saying is he's not immature enough, or he's not like Jimmy Anderson who will speak to a podcast or speak to any other publication before a test match or in the middle of the test series and let his view know out in the open. Even if he has some disagreement, I think he's smart enough to do it within the 4 walls of the dressing room and let it know to the captain and the coach rather than talk to the media about it, because that
Okay,
really doesn't.
it's a fair point. But if you look at the body language of him in the Lord's dressing room during the match, the way he stood around, and the gut feeling I got, the body language I saw, he didn't say a word, but he looked decidedly unhappy and almost muted. Well, I say unhappy. He wasn't kicking stones. He wasn't throwing things around, but he looked like arms folded. Didn't look happy. He also seemed to be holding back from wanting to say something. I sensed that he wanted to say it, but he didn't say it. Just if you go back and if you get a chance, I love looking at dressing room shots. I love seeing, if you could put a compilation of all the dressing room shots of a game, the things you see are amazing. Back to the days of Hayden when he broke the window, or even the likes of Langer and many other players did things in dressing rooms which showed something that was going on. Even when they walked off the field during the Lord's Test match between the likes of Root and Kohli, there was some discussion that we didn't see. We saw a little bit of. There's a lot to be said by that. Anyway, I think he would be unhappy, certainly. All right, the game's starting in about 2-3 minutes, isn't it? You're going to watch avidly, are you? You're going to be there watching every ball? Or are you working?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
The first session, yes. After that, I have some things to work on, so I'll see.
I think the first session, I really think India haven't got any hope of winning the match. So we can make that pretty clear now. But if they got any hope of making it at least admirable or somewhat respectable, they need to get wickets early in this session and make England only lead by a score less than 200. That would make it.
For sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, so Gill, please join anytime you want to. You let me know if you'd like to join. You know you're always welcome. You're a great guest. You're amazing, and it's great to have you and Munchie together. And Monty's been very, very busy, but he's constantly talking, and so is Adam Hollyoak. They've been pulled up on a few things. Adam's got 3 businesses, and I think Monty was out even talking about the Olympics and Paralympics. So he's been running around. There's a few charities he's doing, a few public events, but he's constantly messaging me, so he'll be here as soon as he can. Do you want me to bring Alan Mullally back?
That's on you. You have to decide. See, because the thing is, I think he can be a great addition to the show if he's talking about the technical aspect of it, because he's played the game at the highest level.
Absolutely.
But if he's going to talk about all the random stuff, then I really can't say much. It's just that. I'll leave it at that.
So look, we're looking at Richard Punt smiling from ear to ear. Coley seems very chirpy. Good attitude. I love the attitude of the players. They're out there to do some damage. Let's hope. They're 3 or 4 down by lunch, England.
Yep. Okay. Bye.
All right. Thanks, Gill. Thanks for joining me again, as always. It's wonderful to have you on.
Yeah. Bye.
Thanks, Gill. Ciao, ciao. So India, we're all out for 78 yesterday with Rohit Sharma getting 19 and obviously the likes of Rahane with 18. Third highest score was Sundari, 16. Ishant Sharma is starting the morning's play as he did in the first part of the innings yesterday, which means they believe he's the best bowler to bowl. I would have put Siraj in there with Bumrah, but they've just thought of Ishant Sharma, so we'll see how things go. Rory Burns is already 50-odd. And obviously Hamid 60. These 2 batsmen are well set score-wise, and they should be quite quietly confident about their situation. With Dar Malone coming in at 1 down and a lead of 42, they're in the ascendancy by a long shot. The first ball now, we'll see that Ishant Sharma actually pitches the ball up. The ball very wide down the leg side, and Roy Burns has clipped it down for a single with the greatest of ease. Not the start that you would have liked. Burns moves on to 53 of some 126 deliveries. Hamid facing now is on 60 after 130. So both batters are just raring to go. 121 without a loss of a wicket. Pretty good situation to do. Hazib Hamid has, played 5 Test matches. He's got a mere 288 runs. His batting average is 41. High score of 82, so he's on 60 now. Let's see if he can pass that and make this his high score, which should be something to kick on and get a century. Yeah, so Ishant Sharma's been certainly favoured over the bowling. Very wayward delivery. Very wayward delivery indeed. Very good statement. If Ashton can be dropped, so can Coley. I like that statement. No. Bollywood hot shot? No, I don't think. Hamid's anywhere near us. Let's take a look. Come on. Norman, where are you? Our girls bring some gold panels. They've been busy of late. One of the girls has got COVID. I'm not going to go into who that is. But yeah, we've got a few issues out there with, and one's got conjunctivitis, so we can't exactly bring them on. This is the impact of. I'm eating. I've just been told by Bruce Hawkins that I'm eating again. I'm a naughty boy. Sorry, Bruce Hawkins. Bruce Hawkins, who is, I'm daring Bruce Hawkins from Tambar Springs in northern New South Wales. I'm daring him to come on to the show. Actually, Bruce, do you like my shaven look? I'm somewhat shaven, right? And of course, Hamid is about here. So Bruce is a wonderful player, bats with one pad on his left leg, no gloves, on the SCG of all places. Played at the nursery ground as well in England. Has played at a number of grounds around the world. He's a gun little bat, despite being, in the twilight years of his life. He's the best is behind Bruce Hawkins. The best is behind him. He has 3 sons who claim to be ABBA fans who busk the streets of London. Didn't make much money, and no wonder why. Of course, they weren't that good. So let's hope that Ishant Sharma, who's bowling to Hamid now on 60 not out. Both Burns and Hamid have both faced well over 250 deliveries collectively, and none for 121. This is a pretty damn good opening partnership indeed. Ishant Sharma bowling way too short. That was way too short and way too wide. I don't quite know what tactic this is. It certainly is not my tactic to bowl this wide and this short. I would certainly have not opened with Ishant Sharma. I would have opened with Siraj and Bumrah myself, or even perhaps Sharma, because of the sheer nature of the swing of the deliveries. So Hertig Pakrial, as predicted, 225 all out is his prediction. Yesterday, also I got that correct prediction. So you predicted pretty well. So let's say if you're right today, that 225 is only 104 runs away. Well, it's a better delivery from Ishant Sharma, better delivery, a bit fuller, but he needs to get it up there a lot more and more regularly. And they did that. Anderson did the first over for the entire over, and he got the wicket of Rahul. So, yeah, Ishant Sharma opening bowling, I'm not really a fan of that. To me, that's not my opening bowler for today. I would have had Siraj and obviously Bumrah. I'm assuming Bumrah will come out for the other end. Now, Virat Kohli's having a good long chat to Ishant Sharma, made being well about his length, because his bowling was certainly not. And when you open the bowling, when you bowl generally in Test cricket, you can't have a warm-up over anymore. It's a thing of the past. You've got to come on from ball one and be on song and be at the batsman. And the warm-up should have happened before the game started. Can't wait. First session with such rubbish bowling. Yeah, well, at the moment, I mean, Hamid is not that good a player. I don't think he's got 60 with 11 fours. Roy Burns, however, has looked pretty solid. Actually, Sharma is opening the bowling. So I'm a bit perplexed here why Mohammad Shami and Ishant Sharma opening the bowling. I would have had the other two, Bumrah and Siraj. They need to get some wickets early. Again, Shami's first ball is short and not even a threat. I don't know where these tactics are coming from. I do not know where Shami's short bowling and Ishant Sharma's shortish and wide bowling is the first 2 overs of a day's play. India look pretty comfortable. They're not exactly, they don't look overly stressed, but they need to take early wickets. This first session, if they're going to have any chance of, well, maybe not winning the match, but at least having what would be called a admirable performance, they need to get wickets early. Rory Burns is technically very unsound, but he does get the ball to come well in. England players up with some black armbands for Ted Dexter. Yeah, great thought. And Bruce Hawkins would have some memorabilia of Ted Dexter, I'm sure. But Munchie, Ted Dexter, great words you said. It's pity Munchie didn't ask David Graveny in the first hour of the session about his play and how good a chairman selectors he was. Obviously, his charitable work, the ICC things that you mentioned as well, and being captain of England, and also a quality player for England, scoring, I think, 4,700 odd run, 9 centuries, and also a bowler. Well, a very notable name. Perhaps ask David tonight. Yeah, I will ask David tonight, Munchie. I'll get a bit of a appraisal with Ted from David. I'm sure David knows Ted Dexter very well, having been a chairman of selectors himself, and obviously following the footsteps of Ted Dexter. I'm not sure whether he would follow. He was an exact. He may well have been the chairman of selectors that followed Ted Dexter. Worth having a look at whether that's the case. Shami's a bit of a form bowler. He needs to have everything moving and grooving, and he looked great last test, but he's batting, of course, as well. But he got out first ball. There's things he's bowling, I would argue, too short. Even the length of that delivery she just bowled, then it was still a bit too short for my liking. And not that it was a reasonable delivery, but it's still not actually testing Rory Burns too much at all. And if it gets any shorter and wider, Burns will pounce on it and cut and pull, as we've seen in the previous day's play. Mohammad Shami is certainly a quality bowler. I mean, he's got, I think, 180 test wickets. He's been around a fair while. He's had a lot of success over the years, not just at home. Rory Burns has played that way comfortably to get on. Yeah, looking at the score, I would not have thought Rory Burns and Hamid would have been 60 and 53 respectively, 53 and 60 respectively after 43 overs. They lead by 43. Everything looks good for England at the moment. Interesting, Jadeja's only bowled the 5 overs. Now, I don't know whether he's returned to the field today. He was definitely injured yesterday and went off, which is unusual because being such a fit and feisty young man, he would have liked to have been out there. So we'll see whether he's on today to bowl. That's a better length from Shami, but well left by Rory Burns. It's none from 121 after 44 overs, and the lead is still 43. Hi, Dekshish Gowda, how are you? I'm actually down riding up and down the country on a motorbike, as Lord Ted did. So Munchie's saying that, I think Lord Ted was a bit of a larrikin, a lot of a lair. Finally, I've shaved the beard, Superman. Yeah, I've still got a bit of a beard there, but I've got most of it off. Very hard to get rid of it. I had to use scissors, a very poor shaver, because my shaver's busted and I can't get a new one. I can't go to a barber. So I fought with myself in the kitchen, the bathroom. That was an awful Ishant Sharma's bowl, a rank short ball that laboured over the top of Hamid and he let it go. There was not much going on there at all. I'm not sure what this tactic is. These two bowlers are bowling way too short, in my opinion. That's an interesting hairstyle we're getting on TV there. Blonde hair sticking up. I'm afraid that's not my haircut. Something quite distinctly wrong with that haircut. If you saw that, it was blonde and like a afro, not afro, like a mohawk type cut. Ishant Sharma, who's bowled far too short in his first 2 overs, comes in the bowl. That's a better delivery, but Hamid's just tapped it away and got the single. So not a rather innocuous shot, but successful in getting the single. There's a lot of contention there about... So Bruce Hawkins is on now. I haven't talked to Bruce. He's a great little cricketer. He's a rugby man. He's a president of a rugby club. Been involved with SCG London. I think he's on the committee now. Travelled the world. Had a girlfriend at one stage called Pixie Fox. That was in India, actually. No, actually, it is true. We met a girl called Pixie Fox. It's another story, guys. So don't ask me about that. Google it if you want to. Keep these well left pretty lengths for flat sessions and capitalise the first session by bowling and stuff. Okay, that's Anuj Ingle's thoughts. So what about poor bowling India? They're bowling particularly badly. Burns and Hamid must have the longest hair for openers since the Headingley. That's right. Hamid's all over the place. He looks like a 70s rocker. And yeah, it is true. And even Rory Burns is fairly long. That ball was wayward down leg side again. I'm not impressed with the bowling I've seen so far in the session at all. Been very disappointing. I'll watch a few overs, guys, then I'll leave unless we go through to lunch. We'll see how we go. And you have 2 slips. That was more round arm from Ishant. He's bowling around the wicket as well. Played comfortably. There's been no pressure on the batsman whatsoever. The bowling is nothing's beaten the bat. Nothing's been penetrative at all. So Yeah, it's a bit disappointing, I'll have to argue at the moment. I don't know why they've opened with Ishant Sharma and Mohammad Shami. They should have opened with Siraj and Bumrah, getting early wickets. So about King Kohli, 100 not scoring last 50 innings. Yeah, it's been 50 innings since Kohli last scored a century. That's pretty bad. And that was poor delivery from Ishant. Leg side, flicked with the greatest of ease by Robert Burns off his hip. He moves on to 57. The score's 126 for no loss. 44, almost 45 overs now gone. That ball was innocuous. Leg side, clipped away with the greatest of ease. Beautifully timed, nicely placed. Rory Burns seems to be having no problems. All right, guys, I might actually. Well, I'll go a bit. Anyway, do you want me to go longer? Tell me whether you want me to go longer, guys. And I'll go through a bit more of the first things. Kohli has his hands heavily bandaged. Rory Burns is sponsored by that company, DRS. They're an Indian batting company. They make bats. Well, the stickers are from that company. And a lot of players are using the bat. I think they get paid per use. Not a hell of a lot, but they get paid some money. So there's not much money around for that anymore. So have you watched all live matches? I certainly have. Absolutely. The ground looks decidedly overcast early on today. The practice pitches there's about 4 or 5 of them that are very visible on the ground, and on both sides actually. Both sides, the pitch square and then way to the other end, old-fashioned practice nets on the ground itself, which is very old-fashioned. Not a specific set of nets outside the ground. Of course, they've got the rugby ground behind, which is well used, and probably got a lot of other sporting facilities around, so maybe that's the best spot for the nets. They're persisting with Shami. Very wide line from Ishant Sharma. So it was actually Mohammad Shami. Very wide line. In fact, they're both bowling wide lines. Nothing penetrative at all. No swing, no movement, no real attempt to get the ball up there to swing. Very disappointing. I watched all your videos. I'm a big fan of you, Norman. Thank you, Dexter Garda. I'm glad. I'm very glad. This is actually my, if you want to talk about numbers of videos, Dexter, this is my, let me what's this ball? 688th video since I started effectively in January. So it's 7 or 8 months. 688 videos. 458 have been recorded and 230 have been live. This is the 230th live video. Have I had dinner? No, I haven't. I've got a biscuit here, though. So 688 videos, 458 that have been recorded, and a further, this is the 230th live episode. 688 all up, it's a lot. Again, leg side, and not a problem for Hamid to flick it away, and it looks like it's going all the way to the boundary before. Again, an innocuous delivery, well handled. Well, they're doing it with great ease at the moment. With Hamid on 65 and Burns on 57, the score is none for 130 off 45.3 overs, the lead by 52. This is going along as per plan for England. Oh, hello, Jim Maxwell. Hang on a sec.
England build their innings. So if you like, yeah, that's all right. I'm not doing anything. Yeah.
All right. Shall I send you a link? You can come on live. We can do a bit of a live broadcast.
All right. You send me a Zoom.
Oh, actually, it's a StreamYard link.
It's what?
It's called StreamYard. It's not any different to Zoom. All you do is click on the link, it takes you up, and you log on that way. Do you want to do it?
Yeah, I do it on my phone or on the iPad.
It won't matter. Either way, you can do it on your phone. If you turn your phone landscape, you can do it on your phone, or you can do it on an iPad. It's your choice. I'll send it to your phone if you like.
Right.
All right.
You've got my email, haven't you?
What? Yep, I do. I'm pretty sure I do. I'll send it to both your email and your phone.
Send it to the email, and I can stick it over here while I'm watching the cricket. You see?
Why not? Let's do that right now. All right, Jim? I'll send it to you right now. You can join immediately.
Good on you.
Thank you. Well, we've been blessed, guys. That was Jim Maxwell, who's just rung me, and very impromptu. I'm about to get him to come on live. So give me 2 seconds, and I'll email Jim, and we'll get him to come on right now. He's watching the cricket, so it'd be lovely to get Jim Maxwell to come on, wouldn't it? Now, if you don't know who Jim Maxwell is, I'll get him to introduce himself. Jim Maxwell, I've got 2 videos of him that I do. I'll just get Jimmy Maxwell. So look, it's Maxwell. Because we've got a link here. So I've just got to get to Maxwell there. I'll just get. How's this, guys? The impromptu nature of my show, it has some amazing twists and turns. We'll get that to happen right now. The man is probably the most legendary of legendary commentators of all time. And what I'll do is I'll get him to click on the link as we speak. And to be joining him in commentary would be an amazing thrill. You wait, guys. You'll love him. Yeah. He's been on ABC radio for a long time. Just send it to him now. Just see what he's got. So, yes, guys, I'm about to be joined, hopefully everything goes to plan, by Jim Maxwell. Now, Jim Maxwell has been on radio in Australia as an ABC commentator, ABC, not like the BBC, for some, I think it's 73 was when he first started, if I'm not wrong. That is, my God, that's 40, it's almost 48th year. And he has the most incredible voice you've ever heard. So Jim Maxwell will join us, and that will be amazing. He's an amazing character, very interesting fellow. Probably the best spokesperson, commentator, I would argue, in current form. Send the message to his thing there. You send a message to someone. It's an interesting little process. It'll be interesting to see whether we can get him on. This is going to be quite an amazing guy, amazing fellow, great friend. I've done 2 interviews with him, 2 recorded interviews. Let's see whether he gets to them. He lives in Sydney. Incredibly with it, man. So, all right, we're now looking at the story with Siddharth, Mohammed Sharaj. Ishan Sharma yet again is in it. We've got Burns not out 60, Hamid 65. Now, Siraj has gone for a ball. Could he have hurt his shoulder? He's kept the ball in the field to play well. Quite incredible how he's actually been able to do that. I'll have a quick biscuit, guys. This is going to be a very impressive time to have a man on there. You just heard me talking to him. I'm going to be putting him on very shortly. Wait and see. Now, Jim's used to doing Zoom. We'll see if we can do the stream now. Jimmy Maxwell is someone a great, history. It's only a very good friend of mine. He's watching the match now. He would normally be on some broadcast, but not necessarily. He would be a valued person to have on. There he is. He's photographed there with, of all people, Richie Benno. I mean, Jim may take a bit of time to get this. I don't know what his experience levels are with StreamYard, but we'll see. All right, so Rahul is my state is Inc. That's very good. My address, please. My favourite batsman, bowler, and all-round and captain. Favourite batsman, Bradman, but famous bowler, probably Thompson, all-rounder, Garfield Sobers, and captain, probably someone like Steve Waugh. There you go. There's my answer to those questions. It's good to be able to get a phone call from a legend like that during my call. It's pretty cool. He'll be on very shortly, guys. Just bear with me. It's an extra bonus to have him on. And especially if there's live play, to be able to share the stage with Jim Maxwell and to be able to record that and be able to give commentary to the bowling of Ishant Sharma, or for that matter, a Shami, and to go through Hamid. It'd be quite special, actually. I'm sure Jim's watching the Fox Sports. We'll do some impromptu commentary. That'll be a lot of fun, won't it? Just updating that. And these, you think I can talk? Oh my God, Jim Maxwell can talk underwater. But by far the best commentator you'll ever hear. His voice is beautiful. It's so dulcet tones and well liked by all. Let's see, we'll give him a minute. He should be there. Oh, here we are. Jim's coming on. Jim's not far away.
Can you hear me?
Hello, Jim. I've got you.
Hello, Norman. How are you? I just turned the sound down here. Right,
Good.
that's better. When are you starting the show?
The stars. Well, the show has been actually. My show has been going. You ready for this? For the 2 hours and 23 minutes already.
My God, you must end up talking to yourself sometimes.
Well, you didn't see me, Jim. I had a beard out here somewhere. I had like a real Father Christmas beard. I've only cut it back, and they all think I look 10 years younger. I already had on my show David Graveny.
David Graveny. Oh, good.
Yeah,
he's a nice bloke.
He was on. He was on the first. He was on the. He's a great guy, isn't he?
Yeah, I remember having many chats to him in the years where England were playing like poop. Yeah. And then I think he was selected in 2005 when they won.
That's right. Well, he's still in that role now. He's not the chairman of selectors as such. Ashley Giles has given that role, of course, given that role back to the coach, hasn't he, to good old Silverwood. But the reality is that he still has a so-called scouting role where he goes around and scouts under 19 players. So you could argue it's effectively like a selector.
Okay, good.
So I had David Graveney. I had a guy called, his nickname Munchie, who's an Englishman. And I might get Munchie to come back. Munchie just made a comment. If you look at the screen, can you see the screen? He's already made a comment saying the legend Jim Maxwell. Do you see that?
Who's Munchie?
Well, Munchie is Marcus Lawrence. He's based in England. Was a tiny little fast bowler, and he's a great commentator. Yeah. Well, he's not officially a commentator, but he's become a commentator on my show. So I've had Munchie. I've also had a guy called Gurkirat Gill, who's a renowned Indian commentator, and a guy called Siddharth Vishwanathan. I think you may have come across Siddharth. He's often a part of the Indian Siddharth. He's part of the Indian media pack. But
his name rings a bell. Yeah, but yeah. Right.
So Jim, how are you?
Oh, well, I'm just quietly in my cave watching cricket, occasionally bursting out to pick up the mail or do some exciting thing like that. No, I go out every day for a walk or something, but it's not socializing. It's not much fun, is it? And it's all strikes me as a lot of it being unnecessary. We're paying the price for a few, but anyway, here it is. We've got to deal with it, and hopefully it won't run into the cricket season too far. That's a concern. Ooh,
well, geez, of course, your Eastern Suburbs Cricket Club, the old Waverley Cricket Club. I saw your note about that, sort of, thanking everybody to be a part of it, but of course, season will be somewhat delayed.
Well, at this stage, yeah. October maybe somewhere, somehow, but yeah, nothing's going to happen quickly as long as people keep getting COVID. I mean, I don't know. The vaccination rates are going to take a while to improve. So, I mean, we live in an extraordinary country, the Federation of 8 Republics. Yeah.
So, what do you think of the match so far? This particular match, in terms of the state of play, it's gone incredibly England's way, hasn't it?
I reckon unless Kohli gets 200, they'll get screwed. But you never know. I suppose they could come back a bit, but they didn't bowl very well after having a bad day with the bat. I mean, why would you open with Ishant Sharma? He bowls like a camel with a bloody new ball. His action's all over the place. He bowled absolute pulp. But there must be an old mate's act going on or something. I mean, you open the bowling with, I would have thought Bumrah and
Siddharth.
Or the other guy, Sharma, yeah.
Sharma, yeah.
And Sharma, when the ball's moving, you got to have him with the new ball. Anyway, they didn't bat very well, and England bowled a much better length, which they failed to do at the Oval when they were caught up in all the macho nonsense with Anderson and Bumrah, and Joe Root lost the plot completely. But anyway, here we go. One game turns around into another very quickly, and I would have thought India are in serious stitches. I'm watching it now, and they're none for 135. These two are batting
pretty ordinary
with a bit of luck that perhaps you need to get going like this. But yeah, it's building nicely for England, and with 2 more tests to go, isn't it wonderful to watch Test cricket? Yeah.
Well, so just quickly for the viewers, Munchie's there. Munchie's back again. I might get Munchie on later. He loves listening to yourself and Aggers together when the England are playing the Ashes.
Yeah. Yep. Well, working with Aggers is always a lot of fun, and that goes back before 2005. But 2005 was the series. I mean, the greatest act of kindness, or whatever you want to call it, in Ashes history in the last 20 years was Glenn McGrath treading on that ball. Because if he hadn't done that, I think we would have won the series 3 or 4-0, and we would have just kept rolling along the road we've been on for some time. So it just put a whole lot of energy back into the Ashes contest, and made Aggers a much happier man, particularly in 2010-11, which was the last time, as I recall, England knocked a team over, being Australia at Melbourne and that series. and were none for 157 at the end of the day. So
That's right.
Yeah.
But look, I've got to tell you, since I last spoke to you, this channel that I've got here has got close to 20,000 subscribers.
Really?
It's going really well. I've got myself merchandise. Got a cap, which I'll get you a cap. Eyes on Cricket with Norman Kochik, an actual cap. Look, I'll put it on. I've even got a face mask here with Eyes on Cricket with Norman Kochik.
I don't have one with that on. I only have this one. Yeah.
We don't want you to put it on now. And even look at my shirt. Look at my shirt's even got the eyes on. I've got it all going on. So I'll get
Market. You'll be registering an IPO at any stage. I can see.
Well, I know your address, so I'll send you a bit of the paraphernalia that you can proudly wear around the house.
Radio.
When you're coming out of showers or them.
Right. So where are we at the moment? We're in the show.
We've been on the show since you first walked on.
Right. I guess that. So if you don't mind, I've just been going.
You can eat.
I've been doing Stumped tonight with Let me see. We were talking about the 100. We had someone from the ECB talking about the 100 from a women's perspective, which is very encouraging. That's just fitting everything in. I mean, you need 72 hours in a day to fitting all of England cricket in. But and then we had an interesting chat with a guy who was Mansur Ali.
What platform was this? Was this on the ABC?
It'll be on it later. It's a BBC All India Radio, ABC production that comes out every week. So we pre-recorded every Thursday night, and we had this guy who's the nephew of Mansur Ali Khan, the Nab of Patowdy, because they play for the Patowdy Trophy in this series. And we were talking about him, and we talked about Ted Dexter, of course, and whatever else was going around as we do every week. So I've just done that, had some dinner, and I'm now relaxing, chatting to you with a glass in my hand.
That's lovely, and it's lovely to have you on. Yeah, actually, Jim, I'll be honest with you. You look fantastic. You look refreshed. You really look good. And I'm serious. I'm not just buttering around. I'm telling you the truth. Okay, a guy called Munchie is asking you, what's your view of the 100? What's your view of the 100?
Got no idea. I haven't even watched it. My only comment is that if the numbers are there, which I'm saying on the stump tonight, if they're getting people to watch who haven't been watching cricket, and that's a big problem in England. We don't relate to that here because we just take it for granted that cricket is part of our life in summer, if not the rest of the year, as it has been. But in England, the last thing they needed was to take it off free-to-air television after 2005. The soccer is somewhere between a religion, obsession, and a nuisance, whatever. But football, soccer is what it's all about. Cricket's over there somewhere for most people who live in the UK. So they had to find a way, and I understand why they went for something like the 100, to drag people into watching cricket on TV, some of it on BBC. And obviously, if you look at the numbers, particularly the women's part of it, but also the men's, it's got a place. But there's a traffic jam there with all the white ball competitions they've got. So I don't know how I suggested that instead of the ECB paying out massive bonuses to their staff, they should pay a $500,000 bonus to someone who can come up with a schedule for the season that includes everything without compromising everything. Because at the moment, the way we're looking at this, the 100's going to survive and carry on. How does it fit in with all the other competitions? Test cricket, county cricket. Oh, they've got a wicket. There you go. What
are you watching? Are you watching Foxtel?
I'm on Foxtel, yeah. 1 for 135.
Well, this is Shami that takes the wicket. I'm just watching the delivery now.
Yeah, Shami. He should
he's bowling. He's just bowling, yeah.
Yeah, very, very good pill. He hit the top of the off stump. So I don't know whether India are back in the game, but straight.
I mean, Darwin Milan, who played for Middlesex, is now playing. In fact, I think up in Leeds, actually, he's playing for Yorkshire now.
Yeah,
this is his big moment, isn't it?
Well, it could be. I think he had his big moment a few years ago when he was out here and he looked pretty good, but then they stopped picking him for some reason. He's now, what, 33, 34. So let's see what he can do. Well,
it's his big opportunity to get back in, because if he plays well here and plays well the last 2 tests, he's a shoo-in for the Ashes, isn't he?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I still think on the periphery of that England team is a bloke like James Vince. I would have had him in there somewhere, but anyway, we've all got problems with our batting these days.
We certainly do.
Plenty of problems. So we might have a very exciting series here of a few collapses, looking at the quality of the batting. But anyway, we'll keep trucking along. David Milan's out there now.
So just tell me quickly as well about, I want to know your take, whether you want to talk about it, the article that Malcolm Conn and Daniel Brettig penned today, which has gone out in the Sydney Morning Herald and The Age, about the Langer situation with Cricket Australia. Have you read that?
No. What? Give me a summary.
Okay, well, in essence, already Malcolm Conn's talked about his own personal experience with Justin Langer when he was playing, when he was actually not playing, but when he was a part of Cricket Australia and Cricket New South Wales.
Yeah, I read that stuff a while ago. Yeah.
Yeah, well, this is a further article on that, and then being a bit more damning about the whole thing.
Yeah. And what's been added to the discussion?
Well, I think it was more added to the depth to which there's the inertia and it took to go to that actual emergency meeting, and the amount of leaks that are coming out from players, the likes of Khawaja that's just come out on his own YouTube channel to say, in his words, Langer has had his knife stabbed on his back now, and there's all this conjecture, further conjecture again about Langer. I know that Nick Hockley's come out and said something quite pertinent about the whole thing and said his job's safe until May next year. But what's your take on all this? I was quite. I wasn't shocked, but Malcolm Conn came pretty hard at Langer, I thought. I'm not knocking Malcolm Conn, by the way, at all. But
let me put it this way: around all of this, and there are personalities in the game, and we get on with some and not with others, and most of the time when a team's doing well, you don't worry about it. It only becomes an issue when you're losing. Lindsay Hassett's line is there forever. Over a fag and a drink years ago, we were talking about captaincy, and he said, you only notice the captain when he's losing. And it's a bit like that with Langer at the moment, because his record's more negative than positive, I suppose, when you add up all the games. So I think around all of this, the constant disruptor is COVID, which is mucking up people's lives, their whole mental process, their state of mind, their desire or not to play cricket, family, you name it. There's all sorts of stuff going on. Who wants to be constantly living in bubbles here in Dubai and everywhere else? It'll drive you nuts. And I hope, in terms of all that, Ben Stokes can get his head right and come here, because it'll be a lesser Ashes series without him. But no, I'd be leaving the whole Langer thing alone for the time being and just press on. I mean, we can win the T20. It's a bit of a raffle, that sort of cricket. We could win the Ashes, and Langer will be who he's been for the last couple of years, and before as a player, he's a fairly intense individual. You work out.
He's a great player.
One of the problems in cricket, and Ian Chappell's always on about this. You've got so many people involved in the decision-making process that they've got to find their spot. So when things aren't happening with the team, when they aren't performing, then you start to question what the hell is going on, and that question will come up again if we don't have success in the next 6 months. Not just about Langer, but about the whole high-performance structure in Australian cricket. So, as I say, let's try and find a way to win a few more games, and then people will stop talking about it.
No, very true. Very, very true. It's very well said. I mean, it's something of it is true. when, as you said, when Ian Chappell would say, you don't know about the captain when they're losing, you don't know about the coach when they're losing, when they're disruptive or imploding, it's when it all comes to the fore.
Can I just say that?
Yeah.
I think cricket, as a rule, and it depends on personalities, you're better off having selectors who are separate to the coach in making decisions, right? I don't think there's any doubt that the coach has got certain, even though he can't identify it himself if he stands back for a moment, certain biases or favourites, whatever you want to call it. So I think our cricket generally has been better off having a chairman of selectors separate from the coach. George Bailey's the bloke now, but you want to in their process get some continuity. I know that, and that's a problem when you having situations like Bangladesh and the West Indies recently. All these other players coming in. We didn't have a stable side, didn't have an established batting order, tended to go with a bowling makeup more than a batting makeup, and the batting was hopeless. And out of that, of course, Alex Carey's got the punt, and Josh Inglis has got his chance. Well, we'll see.
Well, Matthew Wade's actually jumped ahead of all of them. Matthew Wade's come up.
Matthew Wade's probably the number one. Yeah, that is true. But it's interesting just to reflect on how things are travelling in that regard, because all we're thinking about at the moment seems to be our T20 cricket. IPL's just around the corner. That prepares a certain number of players to play in this. What about preparation for the Ashes? It's looking a bit skinny, isn't it?
Very skinny. I mean, they'll actually turn up late from the World Cup, won't they? They'll have no time for the Afghanistan match at all, and they'll be straight into a Test series. The other thing was
that's another interesting thing. I had a note from Nick Hockley yesterday because I sent him an email, and at the moment he's saying, as far as Cricket Australia understand, the Afghanistan Test will go ahead, but in everything that's happening there, it's hard to believe anything's going to occur.
That's right. The other thing is, I pity David Graveny's not here now, because he, of course, chairman of selectors as he was. The current situation in England, they do not have a chairman of selectors. They have the selection processes now in the hands of Silverwood as coach. They still have Ashley Giles overseeing the whole thing, and they have scouts running around England to find players. What's your take on that? Why have they done that? Why have they got rid of a chairman of selectors role?
They didn't like Ed Smith.
Maybe that's what it was.
I think so. Simple.
Simple as that.
I think so. Simple as that. Yeah. So they made a change. You know, look, as I say, you can have all these ways of trying to manage and select teams, but if England win this Test by an innings or just win it, I mean, all the other considerations around who, what, and why picks the team won't matter much anymore, will it? Well,
that's true.
The next 5 minutes. But we can over-examine these things. But as I say, as a rule, I don't think it's a great idea having the coach as the kind of chairman of selectors or the chief influence as a selector. I think you need someone independent. And well, I don't know. Actually, Giles is doing that, isn't he?
Yeah, well, he effectively is. But it's amazing because David Graveney is still in amongst it. His position was effectively in a position up until late last year as a part of the ECB, where he was one of the 61, although thereabouts, that were made redundant. It looks like they might be bringing him back in slowly but surely, and he's enjoying himself now, and he's a great guy, and he's very influential still. And it's good. I've had Munchie Panesar and Adam Hollyoak and good old of all people, Alan Mullally on the show. They're regulars on my show. And when David comes on, Alan, he's a character. Oh my
Alan
God.
Mullally, yes.
It's a lot of fun.
Right. Yeah. Well,
anyway.
Is he in Western Australia?
Yeah, he's in Western. He's in Perth, correct? Adam's up there on the Gold Coast. Monty's, well, he's not here, but actually I was going to ask about Monty. Monty actually asked me, and I'll do it live to air now, he'd love to come to Australia for the Ashes. I've asked Catherine McGregor in her role with Sky News whether there's anything there for him. What do you reckon? Would you find a spot for Monty on your ABC commentary panel for the summer?
I'd have to say, in a word, no.
That's okay. That's all right.
I mean, no.
So, what is the situation? You're going to bring out English commentators as per normal? Are they going to be remotely joining in? What's the suggestion there?
Well, all things going to plan. We won't have all these hubs and the rest of it, but you know, that's a worry at this point as to how we're going to be able to manage 5 test match venues for players and family coming out, and without having to go off into hubs and everything else. I mean, as I said before, I mean, this is a country that's a so-called federation that's got 8 republics. So every state's making its own rules, and if some states are going to run hard on, you know, no infection, otherwise we're not entertaining visitors. Well, we could have years of this shutdown, border closure in Western Australia, Queensland in particular. So we've got to try and sort all of that out if we can. And
the reality is, Jim, the reality is we're not going to have anyone coming in this country before December. Our lockdown is going to be at least until December, I would argue.
Yeah, but if you believe the Prime Minister, once we get to 70 or 80%, if we get there, then that's an opportunity to open things up a little bit more, as it should be. I mean, we can't keep going on the way we are. Surely,
no.
We've got, as the vaccination rate increases, to try and open up a lot more. I mean, people in business are going to the wall. I mean, someone jokingly said the other day, we can fly. We'll be able to fly from New South Wales to New York, but not to Perth. But I mean, the BBC's faced with this problem. Agus asked me the other day. He said, "What's it like at Howard Springs for 2 weeks quarantine?" I said, "Well, I think our Olympians thought it was okay, but I'm not sure whether it'll be as happy a place for BBC commentators." Anyway, we're going to sort all that stuff out as we go. But if it all transpires as it should, then you know, we'll have the BBC here with their commentary team led by Jonathan Agnew, and there'll be other people here. But I can't tell you who's going to be doing what for us at this stage, other than the people who worked last year, like Ian Chappell, Dirk Nannis, Alison Mitchell,
Simon Kadich,
going to come. Yeah. So I'm not too sure apart from that. So
yeah. would they do their broadcast sitting in an English chair, looking at it via satellite?
Well, hopefully it won't come to that. Hopefully they'll be at the ground. We all hope we're at the ground rather than being at Redfern doing it off tube or something. But yeah, this is a kind of reality we have to deal with if this thing continues to manifest itself in such an ugly fashion. Yeah.
Now, you've been on my show twice, once with TV Arcana, and I had that one shot with you at the SCG where we did a great report. That got some 17,000. 17,000 views. 17,000 views watched that. It was quite a number. Now, just quickly, for some of the people that don't know you, when you talk about your history, you were first on the airways on ABC, I believe. Was it 1973, was it not?
Yep. New Zealand versus New South Wales. That was the first game I worked on. I remember that. Yep. A bloke called Shrimpton got 100. Yep. Jeremy Coney was a Callow youth around that team.
So it was New Zealand versus New South Wales. It was on the SCG?
Yeah, that's right. Yep. That was my first year in the ABC. That was sort of November, December of that year. And then I started doing Shield games, which we used to do a lot of Shield cricket on mainstream radio in those days. Half an hour here, an hour there, and so on. And McGilvray was the man. He was the major voice. So it was a wonderful opportunity to be working around him and other people like Jimmy Burke. The late Jimmy Burke was on the coverage back in those days. Dave Renneberg, I think he used to work on it.
I remember.
Yeah, a guy called Rex Levy used to do the scoring. Norman May did a bit, Alan Marks. Yeah.
What a great time. You were around some very esteemed company, weren't you?
Yeah, I was very fortunate in that era. I mean, it was a wonderful era for sport on the ABC because on radio and television, unlike today, the ABC did everything. Olympics, Commonwealth Games, cricket, AFL, VFL in those days, rugby league, you name it. We were everywhere, and that persisted for a little bit until the big money came into television, and we gradually got pushed out of the rights deals for sport. But luckily, we're still doing almost everything on radio.
But let's be honest. I mean, partly the reason why the ABC still has a very high profile or a well-respected profile is about someone like you, or if it's not just you, they really you're the backbone. No matter what, everyone wants to listen to you speak, and I'm just like Munchie in England, who likes to hear Aggers and you together, and you've become a doyen, and not unlike a Richie Benno, and he must be very proud of that.
I feel very honoured, privileged, everything else to have had the opportunity to do what I've been doing, and I don't think there's any doubt that ABC Radio does have the audience reach that few others can match, because here and there other players come into the market. Sen at the moment, I think Triple M's coming back for this summer on radio.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. Anyway, that's fine. Spread the love around, or whatever you want to describe it. But the ABC's audience reach, particularly now with all our devices and digital and the rest of it. I mean, you can listen to the ABC's radio coverage of Test match cricket anywhere in the world. We don't have any geo blocking. Unfortunately, Test match special still has a lot of geo blocking because that's the deal they've struck with the ECB. It's not their fault necessarily, but I find it annoying that I can't listen to this game I'm watching on Foxtel at the moment on the radio. But unless you're playing around with VPN and pretending to be in another country, you can't listen to it. So I'm a bit of an Arthur Morris. I'm sitting here, no sound on the TV, just watching the pictures and chatting to you.
Well, I mean, I must say, Arthur Morris, you just mentioned Arthur Morris. I was lucky enough, would you believe, to bring my mother up to his place. Was it near Terrigal or Erina? I think it was.
You're next to Erina Fair,
yeah. Erina, yeah. I went up to his home. He invited me in. The mother was there showing me his paintings with his partner, and it was a great day. And I also had the luxury on many occasions, not only recently, to spend some time with Neil Maxwell at his home in St Ives, and we would go off to the local Woolworths canteen type / coffee shop, and would have a bit of a Black Forest cake, and would have a good old natter.
Oh, Neil Harvey.
I'm very lucky.
Neil Harvey.
Who did I say?
Neil Maxwell.
Oh shit. Sorry, Neil Maxwell is wrong. That's a faux pas. That's a bad faux pas. I mean, that's Neil Harvey. That's obviously the legend. Your name, and then I brought him together with Neil Maxwell, who we all know as a part of the Sydney Cricket Club. No, that's a mistake. My mistake. Neil Harvey. I'll get it right. Neil Harvey. So that's a big mistake. I'm seeing your name on the screen, and it came to my head. That's a bad mistake. Yeah, Neil Harvey. He's still going strong. He's what, 92, 93 now.
92. I think Ken Archer's just a little bit older than
he is. He's the oldest. That's correct.
Yeah, he's the oldest. Yeah, but
But Neil lives on his own.
Strong innings. He's going all right, Neil. I hope so.
He certainly is. He's full of spark. He's just like you, can have a good chat and have a bit of a laugh. He doesn't get many people visiting him, which is surprising. He often told me about the fact that the Steve Smiths and the like, the captains that be like a Tim Payne, don't give him a call and ask him a few questions about what he would do in this captaincy role, or what would he do with this field placement. To me, someone of that quality is worth talking to. If I was captain of Australia, I'd be talking to every former Australian captain I could get a hold of.
Yeah, well, it's a bit of the way of the world. I mean, I don't know. It strikes me for the current generation, anything that's happened more than 20 years ago didn't happen. I mean,
Sad.
People live for the moment, but they
That's true.
don't have much appreciation of the past. Yeah, some do, but not many.
No. So Boomer's come into bowl. He's bowling to Hamid. What do you think of Hamid? To me, Hamid looks a little bit scratchy. He can play well square of the wicket, but he's got a few flaws there that he's not what I would call the next Tendulkar or anything.
Yeah, when he comes out here, he'll find the extra bounce. It'll sort him out a bit. Yeah.
They're still saying Crawley is the one. They're still saying Crawley is the one, even though he's out of form, who's the most likely batsman to handle Australian conditions.
You got to be a good back foot player out here. Maybe those guys can work their game and get in against that Australian pace attack a few times, but it'll take a bit of work, I reckon, if our guys are on song. So Joe Root's in a class of his own. The rest are all a bit marginal at the moment. We'll have to see how they adjust. Yeah, I mean, look, let's face it, the Australian batting's got its own issues. Warner's near the end of his career, and will Pukovsky be fit and in form to take his spot alongside him? We know Smith and Labuschagne can play, and after that, well, Cameron Green's still green. Travis Head maybe at 5. I mean, there's a lot of question marks around the Australian batting, let alone what England have got to offer. And for all his rough edges and appalling-looking technique, Burns is one of those scrappers, ugly left-hander who, if he gets in, can be a nuisance. But England's batting certainly looks better with Sibley out and Hamid opening, I'd have to say. I mean,
no doubt.
Just
quickly, you mentioned the Australian middle order. The Australian middle order. Travis Head, I'm going to say Matthew Wade. Those two are not the answer. What's happened to Curtis Patterson, who's a part of your East club, isn't he? Is he part of East?
No, he's at St George.
St George, sorry. So Curtis is there, and even an Usman Khawaja, or even more so, I would argue, a man who I think should get a Guernsey eventually is Jason Sanger. They're the three people that I'm thinking of for the future of Australian cricket. I mean, Usman Khawaja shouldn't be out of the equation.
No, well, he shouldn't be. If he can, they're starting. Well, if they start, the Shield season starting next month, isn't it? At this stage, it's
supposedly.
If they can find a place to play it like they did last year in Adelaide, but no, Khawaja, his name should still be there. He's a gifted player. If he can put some scores together, he's a chance. I don't think they'll keep going with Wade in the middle order. Sure,
no,
that's not happening.
Well, I think both Wade and Head are not. They were sacked effectively last year from the Test squad. They're not getting Cricket Australia contracts that I'm aware of. Even though Matthew Wade's playing at the moment, I don't think he's got a Cricket Australia contract as such. Nor is Head, if I'm not wrong. They both weren't in that year-long Cricket Australia contract, so they're not necessarily earmarked to play. I think Curtis Patterson, if he's fit, is certainly back in the equation. But, gee, they're pretty light on otherwise, aren't they? Geez.
Well, yeah, it's all very perhapsy. There are half a dozen players shuffling around beyond Travis Head who could line up in that role if they make runs early on. But, state of flux. And
absolutely.
I mean, our red ball cricket's a bit like England's in that regard.
Well, it's worse because we haven't played Test cricket since January, for God's sake.
We don't play Test cricket anymore, as far as I'm concerned.
No, that doesn't exist.
We haven't played an overseas Test match since the last Ashes in England.
That's incredible. It's just such a bizarre state of affairs, quite frankly. And I mean, Sheffield Shield, I would hope would be the one saviour, but that's kind of waning as well. Again, COVID hasn't helped. I appreciate that COVID's a major issue here, but yeah. Anyway, we'll have to wait and see.
Now,
You got some friends on this. A guy called Terence Aldrin. Good to see the legend Jim Maxwell watching the game with so much passion.
Terence Aldrin, Terry Alderman.
Actually, Terence, where are you from? I think Terence is from England because we've got a fair few English viewers actually. Well, Munchie's based in England. Munchie's in England.
Where's he from?
Oh, I've just asked him. I think he's a Londoner. Terence, announce where you're from. Just give us a message on air where you're from. He's a regular of the show.
Oh, God. I'm just looking over the Gold Coast are leading the Titans. The Knights 12-6.
So, Jim, I have people from all over the world, mainly Indian expats all over the world. My second biggest audience is America. I have people in Austria, a lot in England, a number in Australia, a lot in India itself, from Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal. They're from all over the place. It's quite a bit of fun.
What are the Americans telling you about rival IPL being formed?
About rival IPL formats?
A rival IPL being formed in the United States, yeah.
Well, I've heard a bit about that actually. The reality is, Cricket America or Cricket USA, whatever the titling is, they've got a lot of Indian players that are not making the Indian main squads that are charging over to America now because there's both money and exposure in it, and that could well happen. That would be intriguing. Not forgetting a few years ago, Tendulkar and Warne teamed up to have that baseball remember that?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, yep.
But I mean, look, there's every merit that America will become more and more of a stronghold. I mean, they've got the influence of Fort Lauderdale, of course, which is a magnificent ground. I think Martin Crowe's brother, Jeff Crowe, was involved with that still. I think he's the CEO or something. He's got some title.
Yeah,
like that.
but he lives over there. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of West Indian influence coming up from Florida. You've got the Chandler Pauls, the Gordon Greenwiches, and even a lot of Lance Gibbs even lives in Florida.
The 2007 World Cup, there was a proposal to play a couple of games at Fort Lauderdale. It didn't come off, but I remember they had the Americans who were involved down in Trinidad, and they were not immersed in the game of cricket, so they weren't familiar with the terms, and they were talking about things like the side screen, what we call a side screen, and they said, "Oh, well, no, we'll call that the batter's eyes." So, a bit like the 100, they wanted to play around with some of the terms of the game to make it more easier for the audience to understand. So it's interesting to see how it develops from here, particularly with all the talk of cricket being part of the Olympic Games.
Absolutely.
Which is still a bit of a 50-50 because for cricket to come in, someone's got to go out, you would think. But it'd be fascinating to think cricket could be part of the Olympic Games by 2028. It'd have to be T20.
But of course, Birmingham Games next year, the Commonwealth Games, Birmingham, that's going to have female cricket play.
Well, only the women this time. Only the women, not the men. But that's a break. I think I saw that Barbados is going to be the team from the Caribbean. I think when they had the men's cricket at Kuala Lumpur in 1998, they had a Barbados and an Antigua team. They had a couple of teams, given the structure of the Commonwealth Games. But I think Barbados is going to be the team from that part of the world for the Commonwealth Games. Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, it's all about getting the game out there, and that's where cricket, Norman, is unique. I mean, I don't think any other sport has got as many varieties as cricket. We could even go back to having single wicket and double wicket competitions. T10's already been given a push. So the 100, you name it, we've got it all. Oh, there's a bloke who's fallen asleep in the crowd. Easy to do. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure David Lloyd will be on commentary and make a nice comment about that.
He does. Yes, he's very good value. I see.
Have you had much experience with David Lloyd specifically? Have you had much commentary? Have you had many commentary spots with David Lloyd?
No, he did work on BBC Radio some years ago, but no, I've only chatted to him and I interviewed him here and there. And they're fishing for characters in the crowd. It looks like a bit of a dress-up day going on there.
This is the ground for dress-ups. They've had many occasions when a plastic ball would go out onto the ground, and you'd have all the different characters come down and try to get the ball back. There's a great footage of that. It's so funny. Look at this guy.
Yeah,
I love it. There should be more of it.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt that England's the place for Test cricket in terms of crowd atmosphere. The pitches they play on, all bowlers are always entertained on English pitches. It seems you rarely get a surface that goes flat, dead, and produces boring draws. In fact, you're lucky to get to the fifth day as a rule. But it's a great place for Test cricket, England. And there, that bloke's popped up again. The blonde bloke with his
with a big moustache. Yeah.
with his mate Leo Sayer, mate next door. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So when was the last time you were in England?
2019.
You were there for the Ashes tour, yeah.
Yeah. I normally get over there every second year, but as they say in New South Wales, if you want to have an overseas holiday, fly to Lord Howe Island.
Hang on, I've just got someone ringing me. Hang on, I'm going to do it. Chris Vernon, I'm live on air.
Yeah. That's all right.
Good, mate. Chris, you can join. Chris, come on for 10 minutes.
Who you got there?
I should be able to get back for the post show.
Okay, do that. This is one of my. Okay, Chris, I'm on Jim Maxwell, so I'll talk to you soon. Come on up. I'll send you a link for the post show. All right.
Perfect.
Tough. That was Chris Vernon, who plays for Kent. He is an MCC member. In fact, we played SCG 11 played a game against MCC, and Chris was the captain. Yeah. And from that particular meeting, Chris is now a regular to the program. He's just rung me out of the blue. Then he comes on. We have a show called An Aussie and a Pom Talk All Things Cricket, and we've done about 16 episodes. And we have a lot of fun. And he and his dad come on, and we have a great conversation, and we have a lot of cheekiness about obviously a Pom and an Aussie we carry on, and it goes quite well. So he's just rung me out of the blue. He wants to come on later. He thought the show was over already. But yeah, so his dad, Reg, his nickname Bandstead Boy, comes on, and this Munchie, who I've talked about as well. We have a great old banter. It's a lot of fun. They really get stuck into me when England are doing well. And I'm going to bring David Graveny on, Alan Mullally, if he's up to it, Adam and Munchie. It's quite a bit of fun, actually.
Very good. Yeah, you must do this 24 hours a day.
It's almost 24 hours a day, but it's daily, that's for sure. And I've got some wonderful female guest hosts who are actually based in India. A girl called Anisha Tucker, who's a lovely lady, and a girl called Ridhima Pathak, and they're quite prominent on Indian television, and they come on. A young girl who's here called, I think you may have seen her at the SCG with me on occasions out there. Her name is Aparna Saini. She's based here in Australia, whose dad's a Minister of Communications. She's a great little speaker. So I'm pretty blessed to have usually a great crowd of people to join me, and they come in and out whenever they feel, and we follow the match. And normally I don't go on this long, but today, because you're here, I've gone a bit longer. But we have a pre and post show throughout the tests, and we have a great time.
Yeah, so, very good. Very good.
So, Jim, you're welcome to come anytime. Depending on your time of day and what you're up to, give me a call, and if you've got a time slot, I'll send you the link, and you can choose freely to come in. It's a pity you didn't come on a bit earlier, because I had David Graveny live for an hour, and he's just wonderful. We have a good old chat. You know that David Graveny is very close to Princess Diana, and at the funeral of Princess Diana was sitting right next to Elton John when he was playing the famous Candle in the Wind song.
Candle in the wind,
And it's-
right? Yeah.
Yeah. Or the version that was done there for Princess
Yeah,
Diana. Lovely, great stories. David tells amazing stories. You can imagine.
All right. Okay.
All right, I'll let,
I'll-
and you got to go?
We better wrap up. Yeah. Is that all right?
Okay. All right, Jim. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate it. You're welcome
We'll do it
anytime.
again, Norm. Okay.
All right. All right, Jim. So you just sign off there and I'll continue on. All the best, Jim. Thank you very much.
Have fun.
Ciao,
All the
ciao.
best, Norm.
Ciao,
Cheers
ciao.
now. Bye.
I'll press your button and I think I'm going to continue on.
I'll leave. Here we go.
Yeah. Perfect. How was that, guys? We just had Jim Maxwell on impromptu like that. It was just amazing. He's been on radio, Australian radio, since 1973. So it's 48 into 49 into it was 48 years complete into its 49th year. Amazing. So privileged to have him on the show, and I really appreciate that. So I'm going to leave now, guys. I think we've got the score now. England are 1 for 141 after 57 overs. A lead of 63. Milan is not out 4. And Hamid is not out 68. Of course, the wicket of Rory Burns has gone bowled by Shami. So great to talk to you guys. We'll see you post-show. All the best.